Homemaker Cassie Zelerick and her daughter, 23-year-old student Adina Heyer, are suing their neighbor, 22-year-old groundskeeper Andrew Southards, for the balance due on a car and for filing false charges against Adina.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 110 on the calendar in the matter of Zelerick, Heyer versus Southards. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Zelerick, it is your claim that you sold a car to the defendant and he refuses to pay what he owes on the car. And the second part of your claim is that he had an altercation with your daughter and he made false charges of assault against her. You're Miss Heyer?
Yes.
How old are you?
23.
And you want to be compensated for these false charges. Mr. Southards says that the car was a piece of junk and the charges were true. So, Mr. Southards, you bought this car?
I made a $25 payment on this car.
Let's start with the premise, sir.
Okay.
That I'm older than you are, and I know more.
Right.
So don't dance around with words.
Okay.
You bought a car.
Correct.
And after you bought the car, you made one payment.
Correct.
Now we're talking, Mr. Southards. When did you buy the car, sir?
12502 is when I put in my name.
Fine. And you gave her how much money?
Nothing.
What was the agreed purchase price?
$400.
And you knew Mrs. Zelerick before you bought the car?
That's correct.
How long had you known her?
Approximately maybe 2 years.
Is this the first car you ever purchased?
No, ma'am.
How many cars have you purchased before?
I'd say about 3.
What were the terms of the payment that you were supposed to make to Mrs. Zelerick?
I would give her $25 a month until I received my income tax.
And then you would pay her the balance?
Correct.
Good. You see how easy this is going to be?
Yeah.
You didn't expect it to be so easy, did you?
No.
Now, you said you made one $25 payment?
That's correct.
When did you make the $25 payment?
I'm not sure exact date.
When did he make the payment? You see, I knew you were going to get a turn.
He made that payment February 21st.
Now, when you got the title to the car, Mr. Southards, did you also take possession of the car?
Well, I had possession of the car beforehand.
You did?
Correct. Ms. Zelerick was not pressed for the money, as she had told me. She just wanted the car off her insurance and off the street.
Try not to volunteer any answers. It makes my job much easier. When did you take possession of the car?
In January.
Before you got the title?
Correct.
And you were doing some work on the car?
Correct.
Was the car running or not running when you purchased it?
It wasn't running.
So you had to do some work to put it in a running state?
Correct.
So it wasn't a surprise to you if the car could not be driven, that work had to be done on the car?
Correct.
Or this is like shooting fish in a barrel.
Take your time.
January 25th, then, not only did you have the car, but you had the title. You made a payment February 21st. Now, sir, I assume that you have received your income tax refund back. Is that right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you pay her the money?
Because the car was a lemon, and she had lied to me about nothing being majorly wrong with the car, when in fact it had a blown head gasket. And the muffler on the car, you could only get through the manufacturer, and that would cost $800.
How many weeks did you have this car, sir, before you got the title?
Maybe 3.
Well, in the 3 weeks' time that you had the car, sir, before you got the title, did you know it needed a muffler?
At that time, no, until I got it on the road to get inspected.
So you had the car, you were working on the car, you put it in a condition where it would run, go from here to here.
Correct.
But you couldn't tell it needed a muffler. What?
Yeah.
Either way, it doesn't look good for you, sir. Either answer. So why don't you just tell me the truth? Let's make it easy for each other.
No, ma'am.
No what?
I didn't think it needed a muffler.
Well, if you didn't think it needed a muffler, and you're a guy who's bought 3 used cars and was fixing them up yourself, what makes you think this lady, who probably the only thing she knows about cars is putting a key in an ignition, turning it on, and maybe turning on a radio station, what would make you think she knew it was a lemon?
I talked to her husband.
Her! You bought it from her.
Okay. I spoke to her and her husband, which was familiar with the car. They had problems with it before.
They had problems. It wasn't running, sir. What do you mean they had problems with it before? It wasn't running. You couldn't take it from point A to point B when you took it off their hands. Did you have it towed?
No, I pushed it.
You pushed it.
We're neighbors.
That's not the usual way you get a car from point A to point B, by pushing it. That would lead a reasonably intelligent person or a very smart fool to the conclusion that there was something majorly wrong with the car.
There wasn't anything majorly wrong as far as starting it. And Mr. Zalarak, when they had parked the car, which had been sitting there for about a year on the street, had told me that when they parked it, it was running.
When you bought it for $400, and we're not talking $4,000 or $40,000, when you bought it for $400, it wasn't running. And what year car was this?
82.
So the car is 20 years old.
Right.
You've bought 3 used cars before. The car isn't running. You have to push it from one place to another in order to work on it. You had it for 3 weeks. You played with this, you played with that, you put money into it, whatever, you finally got it running. She gave you the tags, and you went to have it registered?
Correct.
In order to have it registered, did you have to have it inspected?
Yes.
Did it pass inspection?
No, it didn't.
Oh. Is that when you decided not to pay her any more money?
That's not correct. No.
Well, when did you decide not to pay her any more money?
When I found out all the problems, you know, that came out of this car wasn't worth putting the money into. I mean,
Now,
this
Mr.
car...
Southards, pay careful attention to me.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
The plaintiff says, take the car, work on it. Don't give me any money. See if you can get it going. Is that about right?
No, we had a contract.
Okay, I'm going to look at it. You take the car, you take it to a mechanic, and you say, look at this car, tell me whether it's worth it for me to buy it, right? A 20-year-old car. If you didn't do that, that's your fault. Let me see the contract. That's not her fault. Well, this says he's supposed to put down $100. He didn't. No. You gave it to him anyway.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They come in my house. I tell them to get off my property. I don't want you here. She ends up getting in my face and pushing me. They're tag team partners. They've done it before. This is a family matters.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cassie Zalaric and her daughter, Adina Heyer, are suing their neighbor, Andrew Southards, for the unpaid balance on a car. Andrew says both ladies are obsessed with him.
Okay. So you owe him $375 for the car. That was the easy part. Now, let's get to the harder part. You claim that he filed false assault charges against you. I want you to tell me how that came about.
On February 25th, he came over to our house and got into an argument with my mother about the car because he didn't want to pay for it because it was a piece of, he said. There were some things that my mother wanted to talk to his girlfriend about, so she proceeded to go down to her house. He followed us up there. He went in before we did. He pushed my mother out the door and slammed the door on her. We asked Heather, his girlfriend, if we could come into her house, and she said yes. She wanted to know what was going on. Andy was very outraged that we had went down there.
What'd you go down there for?
She's been harassing my daughter, trying to date her and all, when he's supposed to be with this girl engaged to her.
What's that your business? What's that your business?
Him harassing my daughter?
No. Him trying to date your daughter.
Well, he was also calling me, asking me if I thought my daughter would date him, and...
That's fine. The reason you went to his girlfriend's house is to make trouble, right? Right?
Right.
Because his girlfriend isn't a police officer. If he's harassing your daughter, what you do is you call the police. If you want to be a troublemaker, you go to his girlfriend's house. All right, but now you're there. You're at the girlfriend's house. Girlfriend invites you in, he slammed the door. Let me hear about these charges that he made against you.
He was screaming and hollering at me and calling me an easy, a skank. He was just very outraged. And the whole problem was because the week before, he was continuously calling me on my cell phone, calling my house, asking me to go out, and I told him no.
Why did you go to his girlfriend's house?
Because my mother went down there and I wanted to make sure that everything was okay.
Your Honor.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Now, is this where the alleged assault took place, at the girlfriend's house?
Yes.
Now you can tell me what the assault was, sir.
Okay. This is all out of revenge because I didn't want to mess with their daughter. They're both, I mean, they like me or something.
Get to your girlfriend's house.
Anyway,
I don't know why, sir. Get
this
to the
is
girl.
also
You're
my
at the
house.
girlfriend's.
This is also my house.
Oh, your house, your girlfriend's
right. This
house.
is where I live. Okay.
Good.
They follow me down to my house. They come in my house. I tell them to get off my property. I don't want you here. They're tag team partners. I mean, they've done it before. This is a family matters. Anyway, they come in my house without asking anybody to come in. My girlfriend says, okay, they're here already. They're raising a ruckus. Neighbors are out in the yard. They're cussing, swearing. Yeah, I did call her those names, but if the shoe fits, wear it. I mean, hey, that's how I look at it. But as we get in the house, you know, that's my house. I had to say what I had to say. I told them to leave. You know, my girlfriend said, well, I'll hear the story, then y'all need to leave. They carried it on still. She ends up getting in my face and pushing me over a playpen, which my 1-year-old daughter at the time is in. Okay, this is when I decided to call the police.
So she pushed you?
Correct.
What hospital were you taken to when she pushed you?
I wasn't taken to a hospital. The fact is, I almost...
What doctor did you see as a result of your injuries?
No doctor.
What medical treatment did you receive from EMS when they arrived at the scene?
Nothing. As far as assault...
May I see the photographs of your injuries?
No photographs.
What are you laughing at, you idiot? What are you laughing at?
It's a point that there doesn't have to be marks to be assaulted.
Yes, there does, sir.
Okay.
Yes, there does.
Then how?
Because an attempted assault means that you intend to cause injury. Why don't you be quiet?
Okay.
And pay attention?
Okay.
An assault means that you cause injury. If you touch somebody by way of a battery and you do not cause any injury, that is an attempted assault. So you had no injuries, is that right?
No.
And after you got pushed into the playpen, they left?
No.
They stayed and continued to argue?
Correct. After I asked them to leave, continuously.
All right, now let's get...
I have statements that have been notarized from a girlfriend.
I don't read statements notarized, sworn to, in blood.
Well, they couldn't be here to testify, so...
Why, are they in the military?
No. I mean, I have a child.
Just answer my question. Okay. Are you married to your girlfriend?
Not at this time. Planning.
And this is a house or an apartment?
An house.
Who lives in the house?
My girlfriend. We have 2 daughters and myself.
2 daughters?
Correct.
How old are the 2 children?
One's 4, and one's a year and 4 months.
Now, is there a lease in the house?
A lease? Yes.
Lease for the house?
Correct.
Whose name is the lease?
It's in her name.
Right. Who pays the rent on the house?
Both of us.
Does your girlfriend receive any state aid for the children? Or for herself?
No.
So she does not receive any public assistance or welfare for the children?
Not to my knowledge.
What?
Not
to your knowledge?
No.
I don't know. I don't know.
We can start back over.
I want to know if you've been living there for 2 years, sir.
Okay.
Can you explain to me why? Just out of curiosity, and I want you to again understand.
Okay.
You're younger and better looking. I'm older and smarter.
Okay.
Explain to me why the house isn't in both your names. Is not an answer.
Okay. At the time, we were having a lot of disputes, and we didn't know if we were going to be together or not. So I was not trying to get stuck in a situation where I ended up paying on a house that I might not live in because of our relationship.
You still had children together. Who was supposed to pay for the children?
I take care of my children.
Oh, sure you do.
I do.
Oh,
That's my number 1 priority.
Number 1 priority.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cassie Zalaric and her daughter, Adina Heyer, are suing their neighbor, Andrew Southards, for the unpaid balance on a car. Andrew says both ladies are obsessed with him.
Okay. Listen, what happened as a result of these baloney assault charges that he filed?
I missed several of my classes in school.
Big deal. You had no reason to go there.
You
had no reason to go there.
Yeah.
You had no reason to go to his house, whether it's his house or his girlfriend's house.
Yes.
Whether they're playing hanky-panky with the government or not, who knows? You and your mother had no reason to go to the house, and when he told you to leave, you should have left. And whether you were charged with trespass or you're charged with an assault or an attempted assault, whatever, you weren't convicted of anything. So your claim for false arrest is dismissed. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But you're entitled to your car money back, $375. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't want nothing to do with them, and they're obsessed with me.
There's no way I would ever want to be with somebody like him.
Phone calls from the mother and the daughter, how they want to get out with me, and, you know.
That's outrageous.
One time I was taking a shower, and the mom called and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm taking a shower." She said, "Well, can I come over and help you?"
I just don't know where he's coming up with those.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Oliveira versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
Painter Alejandro Oliveira is suing his ex-girlfriend, machinist Evie Rodriguez, for the return of his belongings and for vandalizing his van.
Mr. Oliveira, it is your claim that Miss Rodriguez, who used to be your girlfriend, vandalized your car and kept some of your property when she decided to terminate the relationship because she allegedly saw your vehicle in a motel, and she wasn't at the motel. She says she didn't touch your car, and you had plenty of time to get your property, and she doesn't have your property anymore. How long were you going out with her?
About 2 years.
Did you live together?
Yes.
And tell me when she vandalized your car.
The night that she seen my van at a hotel room.
What night was that?
Oh, I'm not sure the exact date, but...
Better be sure, because if you're not sure, I can't hear your case.
in the middle of July, I would say like July 15th.
And where were you at the time that you observed her damaging your car?
I was at my friend Jacob's house.
Had you seen Miss Rodriguez at the motel? Did she try to get your attention?
Yes.
How did she try to get your attention, Mr. Oliveira?
She was yelling out my name, come out, and asking me to come out, and I wouldn't come out.
Okay, and you waited until she left?
Yes.
And what happened when you got to Jacob's house?
I was gonna stay the night there, and then
She thought that would be a good idea.
yeah, I heard some things going on outside, and the same thing, pounding on the door, telling me to come outside. I wouldn't come outside, so then...
Why not?
Because I didn't want to deal with this girl. And she started bashing my windshield and my back window.
You have photographs?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I just didn't even think about doing that.
So why are you thinking about suing her now?
Because she took some personal belongings when we lived together, and just, I wanted them back. She wouldn't give them back, so...
Like what?
Couches, living room set, clothes.
You lived together for 2 years, sir. Are these things that you purchased when you were living together?
No, I had them prior.
When, for the first time, did you ask her for this property?
After we separated, and...
Well, you separated, I assume, on July 15th.
Sure.
Yeah.
The day after, I'm gonna go get my stuff. She had already locked the doors. Then one day after that incident, she had threw all my things outside and said I better go and get them before somebody takes them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alejandro Oliveira says ex-girlfriend Evie Rodriguez won't return his personal property.
Why didn't you go over there?
I was just drinking and I didn't want to drive, so I waited till the next day.
Oh, and what happened to all your stuff?
They were there, and I took the things I can, like small things, but I couldn't carry couches and the bigger things by myself, so I just waited.
Yeah.
And I told her to put the stuff back inside, and she refused to. Then she said they got stolen, but I know she took them because I seen them at her sister's house when I peeped through a window.
So the couches in her sister's house?
Yeah.
Does your sister have his couches?
No.
No? Who has his couches?
I told different people that there's stuff outside. If you want it, go get it.
Good. Well, that's good. So they took him.
Yeah.
They came and they took it.
Yeah.
Did you bust his windows on his car?
No.
You didn't bust
You had a
me?
right to.
She
You had a right to, in your own mind, I'm sure you thought, right?
I'm not the kind of person to do that. So.
Well, what I don't understand, Mr. Oliveira, is that if somebody vandalized my car like that and you want them to pay for it and you want to bring a lawsuit, you take a photograph of what the car looks like.
True, but at the time it happened, I didn't even think about taking it to court, you know.
So what do you want me to do?
Actually, I just want to get my couches back, and she
She
has
doesn't
them.
have your couches.
She does have them.
No. She told somebody, she put your couches out along with all the other property. You said you came by, you didn't come by that night because you'd been drinking. You came by the next day, you took some of the things that you wanted. She says, she called all of her friends and says there's a bunch of junk outside. If you want to come and get it, you come and get it. Maybe her sister wanted the junky couches. She came and got the couches.
She has no right to give things away. That's not hers anyway, so
Yeah?
she shouldn't have did that in the first place. That's not right.
Just a second. You shouldn't have given away the couches if you gave them away. I'm telling you, she shouldn't have. What were you doing at the motel?
Just partying, whatever.
Really? The night before, this happened on the 15th of July. On the 14th of July, where were you?
I was there at the apartment where we lived at.
Yeah. Did you have dinner together that night?
Sure.
Do you have children?
Nope.
Do you have children?
I have one.
How old is your child?
He's 12.
Does he live with you?
Yes.
Oh, I have 2 children, but not with her.
So you have 2 children?
Yes, I do. I thought you
Oh.
meant if I had some
No,
with her.
no. Not with her.
No.
And not with the person you were in the motel with, I assume.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So, did you tell Miss Rodriguez that you were going to spend an evening in a motel with somebody on the 15th?
Nope.
Why not?
We were having troubles at the time. We were breaking up.
Really?
So-
When did you tell her that?
I never told her. It just things were happening.
Mr. Oliveira, you have no pictures of your car vandalized. So I can't tell, A, if it was vandalized at all, and B, whether she did it.
She did do it. I just thought she would come up to it and say that she did because she knows
She's
she
not.
did.
And as far as your property is concerned, she called you and said to you, oh, by the way, you still living in the same apartment or the
No.
same house?
I moved out.
And you didn't move back into that place, did you?
No.
Where did you go to live?
At my friend's house or the night that
At
she came and
Jacob's
broke in.
house?
Yes.
You still living there at Jacob's?
Yes,
No, you're not, Mr. Oliveira?
I am.
Full time.
What do you mean full time, Mom?
You sleep there all the time?
Yeah.
Every night?
That's where I'm staying at now.
Uh-huh, right. But you paying any rent to Jacob?
It's not, well, it's not actually his house, it's his mother's house. But
Oh, really?
yes.
So you have your own room there?
I sleep on the couch or if
Oh,
nobody...
just a minute. So she has a couch.
She has a couch.
So where are you going to put these couches when you get them?
I can put them at my mom's or wherever in storage.
Oh, well, you don't have any couches anymore, Mr. Oliveira.
I know.
Case is dismissed.
Her sister has-
Goodbye.
Oh, these are excused. You may step out.
I thought it was a good verdict.
She wants to lie and be like that. That's how it is.
He's just mad because I don't want him back.
I was just there with friends. There wasn't nothing going on or nothing. She just took it the wrong way.
Watch who I live with next time.
She was breaking the windshield with bottles and stuff.
No, I didn't do that.
Don't go out with crazy women.
Next time someone says, come and get your stuff, just go get it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Shartza versus Myers. Step forward, please.
19-year-old student James Schartzer is suing his former friend, 20-year-old loan officer Matthew Myers, for vandalizing his car. Matthew says James tried to run him over. He is countersuing for money owed on a computer.
Mr. Scharzer, I gather from your complaint that you know the defendant, Mr. Myers, and it is your claim that he vandalized your car. The defendant says that he did not vandalize your car, that you were not in the car at the time of this incident. Some of your friends tried to run him over, and he merely placed his hands on the hood of the car because he was trying to protect himself. Mr. Myers says that you owe him some money for a computer and is counterclaiming. Is that what this is about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was your car vandalized, sir? On what date?
April 27th, 2002.
And tell me how it came about that your car was in the vicinity of Mr. Myers' house.
Well, it all started, I was hanging out with some friends.
I want you to speak up, speak slowly so that I can hear you, because I'm not holding it against you that you did not dress for court today. Just because they're wearing suits and shirts and ties doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to tell me the truth, right?
Right.
But I think that you can get a leg up if you speak up, speak from your diaphragm. Don't swallow your words. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
Try.
Let's go.
On the night of April 27th, 2002, I was hanging out with some friends, and one of my witnesses, Susie,
Stop tapping. Don't tap.
one of my witnesses, Susie, had to go over his house to deliver a payment for that computer.
What computer?
The computer that we made a deal with where I put a down payment down, he put the other $500 on his credit card, and I was paying the monthly payment.
Susie was going to go over to his house to make a payment for you to him on a computer that he had put on his credit card as a favor to you.
Yes, ma'am.
We got that down?
Got that.
And why weren't you going to make the payment, sir?
Because at the time we weren't friends.
Why is that? Had you been late in making the computer payments?
No, I believe it was the first payment that was being delivered.
Okay. Go ahead.
And we weren't friends, and she had to go over there, so I let two of my friends drive her over there because I didn't want any altercations. And they went over there, and she went in the house.
You weren't there, so you don't know
No,
what happened.
I
But
wasn't
that's
there.
why she went over there in your car.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Susie! So you went over there with a payment. How much of a payment did you go over with?
I believe it was $60.
What happened when you got there?
I walked inside and I handed Matt the payment. He was sitting on the couch by himself, and I was just talking to him because I hadn't seen him in a while. And then I told him that Rich, the boy who drove me, was out there, and he wanted to say hi. So he went outside with us, and he said hi to Rich, and he looked at the car. And then he was like, something like, give a message to James. And he started like kicking the side of the door. And then he walked around and started kicking the front of the door, yelling that he wanted his money. And so I was scared, so I jumped back in the car and we drove off.
He just started kicking the car?
Yeah, he knew it was James's, so he just...
Of course he knew it was James's.
So he like grabbed onto my shoulder and started kicking the car. And then he walked around and jumped on the front and started jumping on the hood of the car.
What'd you do that for?
I didn't do it.
What'd you do?
This is what happened. She came over, I met her outside. I was talking to her. She gave me the $60. I thought it was $70, but she gave me $60. And then what happened? I'm nervous. And what did she do? She gave me the money, and then I was sitting in front of the car.
No, this is
I know. I'm sorry.
slowly.
No.
Why don't you do this?
No.
Go. Take a deep breath. Okay.
All right.
Slow.
We started to talk, and then she got in the car. Right? I'm nervous. Sorry. I'm sorry. And we started talking, and then I started getting mad because she said he wasn't going to pay the rest of the money because he owes me $500.
He wasn't going to pay you the rest?
No, that's what she told me because he owes me $500. I got it right here. And then after that, I don't know if he wasn't driving the car. He was in the passenger seat. And
Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Okay, sorry. And then I started yelling at her, and I was like, someone's going to pay this money. Someone's going to pay this money. And I was getting real angry. And what happened was she jumped in the car, and I thought they were going to back out the driveway. I was yelling at him. When he jerked forward on the car, I slammed my hands on the car real hard, and I went over to the driver's side and ripped the person out of the car. I was angry because they were trying to run me over. He took off real fast. That's basically what happened.
Let me see the damage to your car. I assume that at one time you were pretty good friends if you let him put money on the computer.
Yeah, we were friends. So
what happened to that friendship?
He's a con artist. That's what he is.
What?
He's a con artist. He uses people for money. He's suing me right now so he can pay other people off.
Okay. She says that he kicked the sides of the car 2 places and then he jumped on the hood. Is that right?
He picked the passenger side. He didn't touch the
Passenger
driver's
side only. The hood I got. The hood's no question. The driver's side is out because he didn't touch the driver's side, right?
Right.
So here we go, the driver's side. And the back he didn't hit, right? Just the driver's side.
No.
Back. Back. What are you showing me these pictures for? I have better things to do.
Money.
The
That's what he's trying to
taillights
do.
were...
What?
He kicked the taillights, and the taillights were out of line.
She just said kick us out of the car. I'm sorry.
Bert, is this the passenger side or the driver's side? Looks like the driver's side to me. Maybe.
Depends on which way the car is facing.
Yeah.
Is that 2-door or?
2-door.
Oh, I think it's the passenger side.
2-door.
It's in the back of the car over here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me see your estimate, sir. What kind of car is this?
It's a 1989 Honda CRX.
Left door damage, left quarter dents, left to light, left quarter. He only kicked in one place.
Before I was told that he went all the way around the car.
That's not what you just said,
He
right?
went on the passenger side, and the passenger mirror, and then the hood of the car, and that was it.
All right. Whole car isn't worth $3,200.
Yeah, it's worth $29,330. I got it right here in the blue book.
Okay. You still driving the car?
It's getting a new motor put in right now.
Well, maybe this will help pay for some of the motor. All right, now tell me about the computer.
Well, basically, yeah, my brother was there at the time. I put it on my credit card with him.
How much do you owe him for the computer, sir?
$500.
So he still owes you $500?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And you can't dent his car, sir, in order to get your money. I'm giving him $1,500 for all the dents to his hood and the dents, because he's got bad dents to his hood where you lost your temper. No. You lost your temper, sir. Lost your temper. You were angry. You lost your temper. You got to pay for that. But from that, I'm taking away $500, which I'm awarding you on your counterclaim, which means I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff, nothing on your counterclaim, because I'm setting it off in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't put a dent on his car purposely. It was accidental because they came at me.
I don't know what he's talking about with the con artist thing.
He lies. I don't like liars.
Don't hang out with that family.
They don't trust people.
19-year-old student Serena Coles is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old machinist Kunta Kinte Plunkett, and his brother, Arthur Plunkett, for unpaid loans and attorney fees.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 406 on the calendar in the matter of Coles versus Plunkett. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Miss Coles, how old are you?
19 years old.
Do you work?
Not at this time, I don't.
What do you do?
I was a student. I'm not doing anything right now.
Who do you live with?
My mother.
How do you know them?
I know Kunta Plunkett. I met him at a bar in the casino.
What's his first name?
Kunta.
Who was that?
That's me.
How old are you?
25.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a millwright.
What does that mean?
It's like a machinist.
You get paid a weekly salary?
Yes.
What's your salary?
About $700.
And what do you do for a living?
Construction worker.
You his brother?
Yes.
How old are you?
28 years old.
How did you meet her?
We met at the casino last year.
Did you go out with her?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 7 months.
Did you go out with her exclusively?
Yeah.
So you didn't see anybody else?
I did not, no.
Okay. Now, Miss Coles, it's your claim that these two gentlemen scammed you out of almost $4,000. And I want you to tell me how that happened.
Okay, it came about that he asked me one day.
Who's he?
Kunta asked me if I had a checking account.
I want you to look at me when you speak. If you had a checking account.
If I had a checking account. And I told him yes. And then he said he knew a way that I can get free stuff. And he told me how it was done.
Well, why don't you explain to me what he said to you?
He said that...
I want you to look at me when you're explaining this.
I am. He said that we could get free stuff by me writing my name in different signatures on checks, take them to the stores, write the checks.
What do you mean he told you write your name differently on the checks?
Like write your name on the checks differently.
So that you can then later say that it wasn't your signature?
Yes. Go to the bank after the checks went through.
Just a minute.
I'm sorry.
Okay. What were you going to tell them at the bank?
Let the bank contact me after the checks went through. And when the bank contacted me, let them know that I didn't write the checks. And he made it sound real good.
You mean like it was a good way of...
Like the bank would pay for everything. I wouldn't pay for anything. I was stupid.
Stupid? You knew that it was wrong. You knew it was wrong.
Not yes.
What do you mean not yes? What does that mean, not yes?
I mean, yes, I knew it was wrong, but I guess I wasn't thinking at the time, Your Honor.
Well, you better start thinking.
I did, right after it was too late.
So you went shopping with the two of them?
Yes, he asked me to buy some stuff for his brother, Arthur. His brother would pay me back.
No, he didn't.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
No, did you write checks for Arthur stuff?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you wrote checks for Arthur stuff, it was your intention, Miss Coles, that the bank was paying.
But he told me he would pay me. No, he did.
Miss Coles,
okay.
Let me make this clear to you. Already you told me that you were a thief. Shh, please, this is not funny. Already you explained to me in detail why you were a thief. I don't want you to be a liar, too.
I'm not.
Because listen to me carefully. What you just told me, Miss Coles, was that you went along with a scheme to defraud the bank by writing your signature in different ways so that later you could disclaim that you ever wrote those checks, so that the bank would think that somebody got a hold of your checks
yes, ma'am.
And forged your signature so that he wasn't going to pay you back for the stuff because you weren't going to pay for the stuff to begin with. The bank was going to pay for it.
But, Your Honor, they told me he would pay me. He said he would give me something. And after it was done that weekend, I realized that what I did was wrong. And I went to the bank. I called an attorney. I told her everything that happened. And she advised me to go to my bank and talk to my bank manager. That's exactly what I did. And I stopped myself from getting in any more trouble. And I paid $3,363 of it off, and I'm still paying for it. And all I want is for them to pay for the merchandise that they have. I want them to take responsibility of what they did.
What they did was make a fool out of you.
Yes.
According to you, what they did was make a fool out of you, but you were a thief. You were a forger.
But I don't have a background of thief. I'm just a college student. I mean, I was doing good. I just want to go back to school and get my education. I don't have a background of stealing at all.
You did?
Yes, I did. And I learned my lesson. I just
all right.
my
Now
back.
let me hear from you, the Plunkett boys.
You want to talk first?
Who you want to talk to first?
Whoever feels like talking to me.
Okay, well, first of all, her case is crazy. Well, she's crazy. But that weekend, she had told me she had cheated on me, and then I was like, well, I don't know about if I want to be with you or not. So I think that Friday we ended up going shopping. She didn't say nothing about.
I don't want to hear from you now. And
you know, prior to that, I was.
Take a look at my eyes when we're speaking. Put your papers down.
I'm sorry.
Did you ever have a discussion with her, Mr. Plunkett, with regard to using various signatures on checks in order to defraud a bank?
No.
You think she made that up all by herself?
She must have. She's crazy.
No. Well, you were with her for 7 months, sir. When did you decide she was crazy?
Well, she looked up my criminal record. She was.
Was there a lot to look up, Mr. Plunkett?
I mean.
Please.
It doesn't matter.
No, it does. It matters.
That's my stuff.
Mr.
I mean.
Plunkett, pay careful attention to my questions.
Yeah.
You had been arrested previously in what year?
92.
For what?
Drug selling.
Was that the first time, Mr. Plunkett, that you were arrested?
Yeah.
Shh, quiet.
No.
Let's take from 1996, Mr. Plunkett, forward. How many arrests do you have after 1996?
I had several. I mean, I really can't tell you. It was like minor stuff, driving on suspension. And
No,
stuff
I'm
like
not
that.
talking about driving with a suspended license. I'm talking about other things.
Felonies?
Felonies or misdemeanors?
That drug charge is probably the only felony that I had on there.
May I say something? I have
Just
a copy.
You have a copy of this
Yes,
arrest
ma'am.
record? Maybe it'll refresh his recollection. Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
That's how crazy she is.
I have pulled a copy.
That's not crazy.
I have both of theirs, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at that.
Okay.
Make it much easier for me. Oh, it's almost a novel.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't like you, Mr. Plunkett. The fact that you are not a nice person, the fact that you have absolutely no moral fiber, the fact that evidently it runs in the family because you got a brother who suffers from the same affliction. Total losers.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Serena Cole says her ex-boyfriend, Kunta Kinte Plunkett, and his brother Arthur conned her out of thousands. Serena says the brothers were using her to run a bad check scam.
What were the arrests for false information, Arthur?
Giving the wrong name or something.
Or something.
I don't deny it, you know. I know I'm not an angel. I don't deny.
Sure aren't an angel, sir.
You know, I don't deny me having a history or whatever. I don't know the plaintiff.
Why, if you don't really know her, sir, why would you let her purchase things for you?
Well, things that I received from the plaintiff, I was under the intention that it came from my brother as a housewarming gift. I had just purchased a house. I didn't ask.
What did you purchase for Arthur?
It's right here, ma'am.
Let me see what you purchased for Arthur.
It's both of theirs.
I want to see what you purchased for Arthur.
For me, she purchased a table and a mattress set from the Salvation Army.
You just said to me 2 moments ago she didn't purchase anything from me. Anything that I got from my brother.
Yeah.
Now you say to me she purchased mattresses and a table for you. Were you with her when she purchased it?
Yeah, we were together.
Yes.
My mother was with me also, and
I didn't ask whether your mother was there. I said, were you there with her when she purchased it?
Yes.
So then you knew it didn't come from your brother.
no, I was under the intention that it did come from my brother.
I don't know what you mean you were under the intention. I have no idea what that means. Does that mean you were under the impression?
I was under the impression.
That's
Right.
better.
Exactly. When I just purchased the house, I didn't have a bed. And me and my brother had discussed I was needing a bed. He said, well, okay, I know where you can get a cheap bed. It may be used, but it's something for you to sleep on.
Yeah.
And so I'm the only one that had a truck, and she needed a ride. He was there with me also. And so he picked out the bed. It was just a used Salvation Army bed.
Who paid for it?
Serena.
Look 'em.
Yeah. Serena.
Why would she do that for you?
Because she was my brother's woman. Ex-woman.
So before you were mistaken, Arthur, when you said that anything that you got came from your brother, you actually were with her when she bought you a bed and a table.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, we were all together.
No, we were not.
Can't you just say yes?
Yes.
So you were together and she purchased it. Now you're telling me she purchased it for you because she's your brother's woman.
Yes.
So you know that she's your brother's woman.
Yes.
You know her well?
Yeah, I seen her at my brother's house. And
Have you ever been to her house?
yeah, I've been to her house.
So you know a little bit about her.
Fairly.
What does she do for a living?
She was a student, and
She was a student.
yeah, and
Right. She was a student.
Yeah, and some odd jobs or telemarketing, whatever she done.
And she lived at home, is that right?
Yes.
You're in construction. Where do you think she got the money to buy you a mattress?
According from what I heard, they were going to buy a truck, and it was his money included with hers.
For what you heard from whom?
From my brother. I just heard them talking about it. So I'm under the assumption that their money were together.
So why wouldn't your brother write a check out of his checking account?
Probably because the truck didn't go through. I guess he was getting his money out of it.
You think that your brother, who's got an arrest record as long as Bird's arm, is going to take the money that he earns as being a machinist and give it to this 19-year-old to put in her bank account so that she could write checks? Is that what you think?
Yes.
He's going to take his money and give it to her? Because he's just a good guy.
I thought they were purchasing a vehicle together.
So you think that your brother took the money that he was earning and gave it to her and said, honey, I want you to put this money in your checking account that's only in your name. Look at him. He can't even, he said, me, I'm not that stupid. Huh? But you think he's that stupid. What I want to know is, you think your brother is that stupid? Because he doesn't think he's that stupid.
Right. I don't go to the store and say, hey, let me see your checks, or let me see whose name is on it.
That's not what I'm asking you, sir.
Yeah.
You're not following what I'm asking you, Arthur.
Yeah, I never knew whose name was on it.
I'm asking you whether you think your brother is that stupid that he would take his money and give it to her and say, you put it in the bank in an account in your name.
No, I don't think he would give you something for just her name.
That's what I want. So he wouldn't be that stupid.
Right, he wouldn't.
Okay. Right. So if he's not that stupid, then he would have a joint checking account with her, right?
Something joint.
So that when you went to the mattress place, he would have written a check.
Possible.
But he didn't.
Not that store.
Not that store. Where did he write a check for you?
The salvation.
Arthur, in what store did your brother write the check?
He has a checking card, a check card.
Debit card.
Debit cards.
In what store did he use his debit card for you?
For himself, I've seen him use it on gas. I've seen him use it on.
She talking about this.
Well, this incident, he doesn't have a habit of just going out buying things for me. It's just that
Arthur,
that case.
Arthur, your primary language is English, is it not?
Yes.
I am going to ask you the question again, because sometimes it takes you a couple of minutes to get it. On the day when you went shopping with the plaintiff and your brother to get stuff for your house, in what store did your brother use his debit card for you?
For me, none.
That's an answer, Arthur. You see how easy that is? Yeah. Now, you would like me to believe, sir, that these were gifts that she purchased for you because you found out, according to you, that she had cheated on you. God forbid, because you've never cheated on her, right? And she wanted to make that up to you by going out and spending thousands of dollars in this scheme that she concocted all by herself, because she's that smart, right?
Evidently.
Where's all this stuff?
The stuff she purchased after finding this out, the total of mine came to about $200. I don't know where $1,500.
Shh. Okay, so it came to $200. So what'd you do?
I still got the bed and the table. Did
you give her back the money?
No, I didn't. It was a gift. I wasn't supposed to.
Well, then you found out that she had this elaborate scheme. Let's say it was her scheme. And she went to the bank immediately and she said, listen, I don't want to get into any more trouble.
Yeah.
So why didn't you just give back the stuff?
Well, I talked to her lawyer, and first it was like $1,200. Then it's just been going up, you know. So from there, I seen myself getting deeper and deeper, and I called my lawyers, and they told me if she doesn't have contract, if she doesn't have it on paper, deal with that.
And what'd you do with all the stuff she got for you?
Well, I got it. She brought me this shirt. She brought me these shoes. I mean, she brought my kids some stuff. I mean, she gave it to me as a gift. I mean, what am I supposed to do with it? I ain't giving it back.
When was the last time you were arrested?
Probably about 98. Maybe longer than that.
No, you're right, 98. You're more recent than that.
Yes. Never been involved with no check cashing, schemes.
No, crack, cocaine, robbery, firearms, knuckles, brass knuckles, possession by a convicted felon, filing false information, controlled substance.
All before the age I was 18?
No. You were arrested in 2002 on the charge of assault.
Yeah.
And how old? You told me you were 28, is that right?
Yes. That's domestic violence.
I mean, that doesn't count.
Yeah, of course.
Miss Coles?
Yes.
I've had a rather enjoyable time with these two. I will tell you that. They are two total losers.
I know that. I understand that. Now.
Total losers.
Yes.
Will always be.
Yes.
And there isn't much of a question in my mind that I believe that this whole scheme was probably Sir Lancelot's idea.
Yes, it was, Your Honor.
Miss Coles, they're not going to pay a penny. You did it!
But they have the merchandise, Your Honor. I just want them to pay for the merchandise that they have. I have learned my... I learned my lesson.
Good.
I'm paying for...
Good. I'm glad you learned your lesson.
And I just want them to pay for what they have, Your Honor. I don't want them...
But for you, they wouldn't have anything, madam.
Thank you.
But I have a letter from my lawyer stating that they said they would reimburse me, Your Honor.
Let me take a look at the letter. Let me see what the letter says.
Is my signature on that letter?
What?
Is my signature going to be on that letter? I don't think it is.
Close your mouth. I don't like you, Mr. Plunkett. The fact that I'm teaching her a lesson, you're a loser. Your brother's a loser.
Thank you.
That doesn't necessarily mean she has to be a loser forever. She's 19 years old. But for the fact that she embarked on a scheme to defraud the bank by herself, she wouldn't be in this pickle. She didn't have to listen to you. Somebody says to you, jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, and let's see how it feels. They do it, then they're stupid. You're not responsible, she's responsible. The fact that you are not a nice person, the fact that you have absolutely no moral fiber, the fact that evidently it runs in the family because you got a brother who suffers from the same affliction, that's not something the law can deal with. Where's the letter?
I left it in my case.
Well,
I'm sorry.
It really doesn't make any difference.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a very tough lesson, Miss Coles. By the way, when you came home, you told somebody about what you had done?
Yes.
Who did you tell?
My sister.
And your sister said, you're going to go to jail. You better take care of this. Is that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, right.
And I did take care of it. I was working 4 jobs to get out of this. And I just want them to pay for some of it. I mean, that would be
the right moral thing for them to do, to pay for some of it. That would be the right moral thing for them to do. They are amoral people.
I just want them to
They are without morals, Miss Cole. And you should have known that because you're not a stupid girl. Somebody tells you to fake your signature so that the bank is going to pay out money, and then you're not going to have to pay because you're going to fill out an affidavit that says that's not my signature, when in fact it was your signature. My 10-year-old grandson would know that that's fraud. What do you want from the courts? You cannot come into a civil court and say, I want what's right to happen, because in order to do that, you have to come in with what they call in the law clean hands. You have to come in and say, I did nothing wrong. They did something wrong. I have clean hands. They have dirty hands. Somebody who doesn't come into court with clean hands cannot ask the court for help. Do you understand that? If you don't understand, I just explained it to you. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's crazy.
Stay away from people that are criminals and no good.
Traffic manager Tina Brewer is suing her ex-boyfriend, exterminator Byron West, and his wife Donna for vandalism and damage to her car.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 433 on the calendar in the matter of Brewer versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Brewer, who is this young lady?
This is my daughter.
I'd like her to wait outside, please.
Okay.
If we need her, we'll call her in.
Come in.
Miss Brewer, there are certain things that are truisms all the time. And one of those is if you mess around with a married man, you're going to get burned. And I gather from your complaint that you've been doing that for a few years with this character. Is that right?
No, ma'am.
According to you, he's married. You've been having an on and off relationship with him for a while.
Not a relationship, no.
What kind of relationship have you had with him over the last few
He
years?
has been calling me over the past 3 years, approximately every 2 to 3 months, telling me that he doesn't want to be with her anymore, that he loves me, he wants to come back to me.
Miss Brewer, don't you understand what I'm saying to you? That's having a relationship with a married man.
Okay.
According to you, sometime in December of last year, you got one of those calls from him.
Yes.
And he wired you some money to come and get him.
Yes.
You got there. You found him with his wife.
Yes.
She kicked and dented your car. You were very upset. His wife told you that it was all a big joke, that he just had you come down there to make her mad. You got back in your car to go home, so almost a 400-mile ride. You're so upset you hit a deer, damaging your car. You want them to be responsible for her kicking your car and him to be responsible for getting you down there under false pretenses, which caused you to be in the car to begin with.
Yes, ma'am. Except she didn't kick my car, she hit it with her fist like this on the hood.
But dented it.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. West says that, no, he never told you to come and get him. And both of them say that you've been harassing them and interfering with their marriage, and they're counterclaiming. So far, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you get married, Mr. West?
July 21st, 2001.
And when did you have a relationship with Miss Brewer?
It ended in October of '99, and 6 years prior, we were together.
Okay, so you were together for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
You have children together?
No.
Since 1999, have you ever called her?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
Once was to tell her that I had put their stuff in storage that they left in Oklahoma.
And what year was that?
That was in '99.
Yes?
And a couple more times I had called and talked to the kids to see how they was doing, which are all her kids.
Well, which children do you speak to?
I speak to the two girls, Stephanie and Kimmy.
Do you speak to their mother, too?
I have.
When was the last time you called her, sir?
In December of 2002.
On what date?
I do not remember.
Try the 13th.
Yes, ma'am. That sounds correct.
Had you had a fight with your wife that day?
The day before, ma'am.
On the 12th?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me about the fight that you had with your wife on the 12th, sir.
We had an argument over I thought she was being too friendly with the store clerk.
So you were jealous?
Yes, ma'am.
Shh. Now, prior to the 12th of December, when was the time immediately preceding that that you called Miss Brewer?
I'd say a year before.
So a whole year passed.
Yes.
So you have a fight with your wife on the 12th, and on the 13th, where were you staying?
I was over at my mother's house.
Had you slept at your mother's house?
No, ma'am.
Where did you sleep?
At me and my wife's house.
So you're at your mother's house, and you picked up the phone, and you called Miss Brewer.
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
To talk to the kids, to see how they were doing.
Don't make a fool of yourself, sir. And don't give me an opportunity to make a fool of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Why did you call Miss Brewer on the 13th?
I told you why.
That's a lie. You're making a fool of yourself. Because if you have a fight with your wife on the 12th and you haven't spoken to Miss Brewer or her children in 1 year, the coincidence that you just have this burning desire to speak to her 2 children the next day while at your mother's house, that's too coincidental to be true. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
So your wife, you thought, was being too cozy with a store clerk, and you were jealous, and that was the reason for the fight. So you figure, I'm going to make her good and jealous, and I'm going to call my old girlfriend, Miss Brewer. That sound more reasonable and more consistent with human experience, Mr. West?
It could be interpreted that way, yes, ma'am.
I knew we'd get around there, Mr. West. So you decided to have a little sport with your wife. And if it happened to hurt Miss Brewer in the bargain, so be it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's the perpetrator, but you have an opportunity to say, don't call me anymore.
And I have, ma'am.
Well, I'm glad you have, because he sure doesn't look like the sharpest tack in the box.
And later today,
How much did you pay for him?
40.
You paid 40. You sold them to him for 175 apiece, right? Shh. Am I correct that this is a whole little scam?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tina Brewer says her ex-boyfriend's wife, Donna West, pounded the hood of her car in a fit of rage. Tina says she was so upset she ran over a deer.
Now, Miss Brewer, we're going to jog his memory of the conversation.
I can tell you every word.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
Yes, I can.
I want you to give me exactly what was said in this conversation. He said, "Hi, it's me." Something like that.
Something like that.
Now let's hear it.
When he called on the 13th, my mother lives with me now, and she answered the phone. I was at work. She called me at work, and she said he will call back at noon. So when I came home for lunch, sure enough, he called back, and he said, "I love you, I miss you, we never argued, we got along great, I believe we're made for each other." And he said, "I want to come be with you. I'm tired of this, I'm tired of Durant, I'm tired of all of it." So I said, "Well, are you sure?" Because he had been telling me this for 3 years.
I'm talking about the 13th of December.
On the 13th of December, he said that, and he said, "I will see what I can do. I'll see if I can get my sister to bring me or something." And I said, "Okay, fine." He said he would call back at 6 o'clock that night.
On the 13th?
On the 13th.
And did he call back at 6 o'clock on the 13th?
No, ma'am, he called at 7. He called at 7, and he said, "They're in Durant. They can't bring me. Could you come get me?" And I said, "Well, it's right before my payday, and I don't have any money." "Well, I can wire you the money." I said, "Okay." So the next morning, on the 14th, he called me approximately 9 or 9:30, and he says, "I'm going to wire you the money for you to come get me." And I do have this right here showing the $40 that he did wire me on that day. And he said, "That's okay."
Miss
He
West,
said,
don't get mad at her, madam. Everything she's telling me is true.
I know it is. I know
Okay,
it is.
every
I'm not
single
mad
thing.
at her.
Good. Don't be upset with her.
Yeah, I'm not. It would be him, not her. Yeah, I know that.
Go ahead.
Okay. He said, "Don't worry about the trip home. I will be with you. I will keep you safe." I said, "Fine. Pick me up at my mother's house. I've got all my stuff packed. All I'm taking is my clothes and my guitar. I'll be over at my mother's house. Come pick me up over there." I said, "Okay."
So you got in the car, you picked up the money,
Yes,
you drove
ma'am.
400 miles, you get to the mother's house, and what do you find?
I pulled up, and there was a truck, I don't know what kind of Suburban, something like that. And he's standing beside the Suburban in the passenger side. Someone, I don't know who, is sitting in the driver's seat. And he turns around like this, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Okay?" I didn't know what that meant. I said, "What?" She jumps out of the truck and runs as fast as she can towards my car, up by the driver's side, takes her fist like this, hits the hood like this. I backed up. I got out of there. I'm not a violent person, never have been, never will be.
Did you make a dent on?
Yes, ma'am, she did, and I have a
Can I
picture.
see it, please? Donna?
It's this one up here by the
Donna,
windshield.
darling, don't fib.
I'm not fibbing.
It's the one up by the
I
windshield,
did not
ma'am.
touch her car.
Yes, you did.
No, I
Yes,
did not.
she did.
Sure you
No,
did.
I did not. I never got out of the truck.
Oh, that's some bad. Oh, this is from the deer.
Yes, ma'am. It's
that's
the
from
top
the deer.
on the hood up by the
I
windshield.
did not touch her car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, then you turned around.
Then I backed up and I left.
And then you hit a deer on the way home.
I went to my son's house because he lives there in Durant, and I was very upset. I was shaking and everything, and I was thinking, what in the world? You know, she's there. She's not going to let him go because, well, I won't say. But anyway, I called my mother back in Texas, and I told her, that number that's on the caller ID, I think that's Byron's cell phone number. Will you give it to me? She said, yes. I wrote it down. I called, she answered, and started cussing at me, something violently. I hung up. My son said, Mom, call her and talk to her. Tell her what he has been doing to you all this time, because my children have watched me suffer for 3 years through this.
Listen to me. You can only suffer if you allow yourself to be
Exactly,
a victim.
but I did.
You did. That's.
I admit that.
He's the perpetrator, but you have an opportunity to say, don't call me anymore.
And
I don't want to
have.
hear you anymore.
And I have, ma'am.
Well, I'm glad you have, because he sure doesn't look like the sharpest tack in the box. I mean, I don't know what all you women are fighting over.
But anyway, when I called back, I told Donna everything. I said, you know, all this has happened. She told me, I'll try to use nice language. She told me if I would meet her someplace, she would kick my... I told her I was not violent like her. I didn't settle matters like that, and I wasn't going to meet her. She said that Byron told her it was all a big joke he wanted her to be mad at him, I suppose, from the fight before.
I got you.
didn't even
I
know
got
about
you.
that.
You didn't understand why. I understand why, because she was very nice to the store clerk. That really made him angry.
Yes.
I don't even want you to say anything. You're going to tell me that you never put your hand on her car.
No, I didn't.
Good. Now I heard you. Now I heard you. That's nice. Now let's get to you. You have anything to say for yourself?
Yes.
Like what?
Well, the $40 that I did wire transfer her and that I did tell my wife about, she said that she was wanting to come to Oklahoma to visit her son and new grandbaby. And that she had enough money to get down here, but did not have enough to get back. And if I was going to go with her anyway, why would I mail her money to come down here and back on? And when she came down here, and I'd been telling her for years not to harass my family. I'd talked to her and talked to them, but she went to my mom after she had quadruple bypass and tried to find out where me and Donna live. She has left dirty
Listen to
notes.
me. She did all of that before December 13th?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what'd you call her for on December 13th,
I guess
sir?
I still had feelings about the kids.
Do I have to be? Do I have to be?
No, I'm just trying to get down these lyrics because this makes a great country western song.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
You did something wrong by buying black market tickets. She did something wrong by buying black market tickets. You screw a little bit, she screws a little bit, and then you come into court and say, please help me because I was screwed more than her.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tina Brewer says her ex-boyfriend's wife, Donna West, pounded the hood of her car in a fit of rage. Tina says she was so upset she ran over a deer.
Mr. West, you have any children?
No, ma'am.
Don't. Mr. West, under ordinary circumstances, I would tell Miss Brewer that really she didn't have a claim against you for the most serious damage that was caused by the deer,
Yes, ma'am.
which she hit on the way going home, because your actions were too far removed from hitting this deer in the road. However, under the circumstances, I find that but for your actions in putting her in a position where she had to travel 800 miles round trip in a 24-hour period, 400 miles to you based upon your lies and 400 miles back, you could have anticipated that when she arrived there and found out that this was all your way of getting even with your wife for flirting with the store clerk, that it would have been a very stressful time for her.
Yes, ma'am.
And therefore, when she turned around to go home, she was agitated and stressed and had an accident with the car. And I find that your actions were the proximate cause of that near disaster with her car. You were an unkind, uncaring, selfish, self-centered fool who acted like a teenager when his wife was cozying up to somebody, probably taller than you are, and you didn't like it. So you decided to make her a little jealous. And the only one that you had to make her jealous with was somebody that you knew you could get there in a heartbeat. Not only are you all the aforementioned things, but you're also a cruel person who's going to pay $1,900 to have a car fixed, and your counterclaim is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. Step out.
He has strung me along for over 3 years,
I love my wife. She knows that.
telling me how much he loved me, even calling my kids and telling them that he loved me.
She's trying to break me and my wife
Yeah,
up so she
exactly.
can have another shot at me.
I'm done with him. I'm done with her. I'm done with them all.
Gail Nelson and her daughter Jennifer Nelson are suing 25-year-old business analyst Kevin Harrell for destroying the paint job on their 9-day-old car with fireworks.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 427 on the calendar in the matter of Nelson versus Harrell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Harrell,
Yes, ma'am.
where were you on the 4th of July of last year, sir?
I was at a party with a friend at a friend's house.
You were all in the backyard.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
You were lighting fireworks.
No, ma'am, that is not correct.
You were not lighting fireworks.
No, ma'am, and I have a witness that can attest to that fact.
You were never lighting fireworks.
That's correct.
Okay, good. then Miss Nelson, it is your claim that the defendant, while at a party at a neighbor's house, was lighting fireworks, and the fireworks sparkled over that he was lighting and damaged your car. You want Mr. Harrell to pay for the damage to your car.
That is correct.
Okay. Did you see him actually light any of the fireworks?
He physically admitted to us that it was him that shot the fireworks off.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't want to hear you. That's a lie. When I ask you a question, you'll answer the question. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. By the way, would you give Mr. Harrell this and ask him if this is his signature? That is your signature on the answer, sir. I'd like you to leave that with Mr. Harrell over there, please.
Thank you.
Who's going to speak?
I'm going to speak first.
Fine.
On approximately 11 o'clock on July 4th, 2002, I heard fireworks going on near my home, and I went to investigate, and when I did, I went to look out the sliding glass door, which is my den, facing the street and the driveway where the car was parked, the 1998 Ford Taurus that we are saying has been damaged. I saw fireworks coming down over the car, and I looked to see where the fireworks were coming, and they were coming a couple of doors down from my home. I have a picture that you can see where the fireworks were coming from.
Are you behind the fence or in front of the fence?
My house is in front of the fence,
okay,
and the fireworks were coming from behind the fence.
Okay.
And I also want to add, at the time that the fireworks were being shot, that tree that you see was in bloom. And the fear of that tree being caught on fire that close to our homes was also causing me to be very worried that, you know, a fire could catch onto my house.
Who was the neighbor?
The neighbor, his name was... I want to give you a sheet of paper that he gave me his name, address, and phone number on, and also is standing by a phone right now if Judge Judy would like to call him, and he will confirm that Kevin Harrell was at his home and he was the one shooting the fireworks.
Just tell me what you saw.
Okay.
May I see the picture that she gave you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. What I saw, I walked over, I am disabled, I walked over to the house, and when I got to the door, Kenneth McLemore identified himself, and his girlfriend was there. And the
door inside?
Inside, yes.
They were inside?
They came to the door, they were inside. When I told them what was happening, they apologized, and they said they would go and tell Kevin to stop shooting the fireworks, and apologized for it, and said that they had told him not to shoot the... Okay, seriously, I'm sorry. Okay, so I walked back, as I was walking back to my house, another set of fireworks went off at that time. I hollered to my daughter, she ducked because they were coming on top of her and the car. So I went into the house, called the police, and the policeman arrived, and here's his name and the police report.
Can I see the police report, please?
And I'm also providing what the Virginia Beach Code is regarding lighting of fireworks in our area.
You can leave the code there.
Okay.
I'm not
I'd like to
interested
see
in
a
the
copy of
Virginia
that
Beach
police
Code.
report, because the officer,
Can I
when
see
we
the
spoke
police
to him,
report,
said
please?
there was no report being filed due
Can
to
I
the
see the
fact
police report,
that there was
please?
no damage,
Can I
and
see the
also
police
due to the
report?
fact that there was
Tell him to
numerous
be quiet,
fireworks being
please.
lit off in the area.
I'm not paying attention to him. When it's his turn, he can speak. Try to explain that to him. Bird, would you explain that to him? That when it's his turn, when the judge looks at him and asks him a question, he can speak.
Watch her. Speak when spoken to. You're going to be all right.
Yes, sir.
My man.
Thanks, Bird. Next.
When the policeman came, he went over to the house to discuss the issue of them shooting the fireworks off. After the policeman walked back to my house, Kevin and Kenneth and I think another friend of theirs came over, and Kevin said, "Let me see what damages I did. I didn't do any damages." And he looked at the car and he said, "That's just dust on the car." My daughter then said,
The dust was multicolored. It was red, white, blue, black, orange specks all over the car. So it wasn't not dust, it was ash.
Well, covered with ash doesn't necessarily mean that the car was damaged. That means it was dirty. If it caused damage, I'm going to see that in a minute. But first, I have to determine if there is any liability on his part.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr. Harrell, I want you to read to yourself the answer that you filed in this case.
Yes, ma'am, it's accurate.
I want you to direct my attention to the answer, which is lengthy, where you say, "I was not firing off any fireworks." that evening? Just point to the line. Bird, would you go over to Mr. Harrell, please, so that it'll be easier for me to follow. Mr. Harrell is going to point out to you the line where he says, which would be, of course, the most important thing in his answer, I was not lighting any fireworks that night.
Your Honor, this deposition...
Just point to the line, Mr. Harrell.
It's not here, Your Honor.
That's right. It sure isn't. Thank you, Bird. Finished. Yeah, we're finished. Now, Mr. Harrell, common sense would indicate that if you are accused of a crime, the first thing that you say is, I did not do anything. I did not carry the gun. I did not use a knife. I did not light any fireworks. I did not hit the car.
Right, I understand that.
There was no damage. It was just dust.
Your Honor, I have a witness that was present.
Speak not, sir. I'm not interested in your witness because I'm not quite sure that your witness at this time wants to fall into my mouth. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you lie in court, you're supposed to be consistent. Otherwise, you're going to have somebody make a fool out of you.
And later today,
she induced me to accept her to pay these things. She didn't want me to go back to work. She wanted a companion at the time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gail Nelson and her daughter Jennifer claim Kevin Harrell is responsible for ruining their car's paint job. The women say Kevin was shooting off fireworks in the direction of their vehicle.
When somebody is filing an answer where he says not guilty, he's saying not guilty because I didn't do it. Not guilty because there wasn't any damage. Do we understand each other?
Your Honor, that statement notwithstanding, if you do continue to read my statement in regards to the damage and the conversation interaction I had with the plaintiff, as well as the interaction I had with the police officer came over after we had already gone to Miss Nelson's house. There was 5 of us, all carrying flashlights, along with both of the plaintiffs looking at the car, okay?
We're not at damage, sir. We're at liability.
I understand. Your Honor.
I'm not at the damage part yet, sir.
Understood.
Well, then let's stick to the liability. There are 2 parts to a lawsuit, liability and damage. I don't get to damage until I reach liability. You just skipped right over liability in your answer and went right to damage, which strikes me as being you were liable, but there was no damage. Do we understand each other, Mr. Harrell?
I believe so, Your Honor.
You don't want to just hop in here, do you?
No, ma'am.
Smart girl. Now let me see a picture of the damage to the car, please, and the estimate.
Your Honor, can I see the initial picture that the plaintiff presented to you?
Now, I promised that you could do that, sir, so I'm going to show you that, and I'm also going to show you the police report.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, I'd like to point out one key feature that's missing from this picture, and that would be the fact that at the time of the alleged incident, the car in question was parked directly under this tree, which, as the defendant stated, was in bloom. The damage, so-called damage, was actually droppings from the tree. When we went over, I literally was able to wet my finger and remove it. Miss Nelson, having seen this, said, well, okay, someone needs to come wash my car tomorrow. The host of the party agreed. The following day, she said she changed her mind.
Mr. Harrell, we're not there, sir.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I first have to make a judgment that you were responsible for the fireworks. I believe you were. Now the question is, am I satisfied that the car was damaged? I would like something, them to point out something to me,
Your Honor,
in this paper that they just gave me where it says what's wrong with the car. I'm missing it, and there are 5 pages there, so just find it.
it says that they would have to wet sand and buff the right side of the car, and they would have to polish for the buffing and clean up after the buffing. They gave us the prices of what would have to be done.
So it's really just having your car Simonized and buffed, is that right?
That is correct.
Mr. Harrell, you're much too old to be playing with fireworks, sir. And if you play with fireworks and if you cause damage to somebody's property, even if it's just annoying damage that requires their car to be Simonized, you're supposed to accept responsibility. If you lie in court, you're You're supposed to be consistent. So if your story is that you didn't have fireworks in your hand, you're supposed to remember that. You're supposed to remember from the time you file your answer to the time you actually testify. Otherwise, you're going to have somebody make a fool out of you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $205. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If she needs money that bad, get off welfare. Get a job. That's what the rest of us do.
I am not on welfare. I am on permanent Social Security disability.
So I hope she enjoys her $200. Maybe she can get her hair done or, slim fast or something. We'll see.
I said, why would you want to pay court costs? This is a very black and white situation. And he said he thought it was frivolous.
Bottom line is, Miss Nelson wants something for nothing.
Student Anthony Dawson and his wife Kimlin Dawson are suing nurse Danye Wade. They claim Danye bought a van owned by their church and refuses to remove the logo. Danye is countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 401 on the calendar in the matter of Dawson versus Wade. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Dawson, you are the head of a church group?
No, I'm not a head. I'm just one of the members of the church group.
And you?
I'm a member also. I'm his wife.
According to your complaint, your church group sold a van at auction at a charity event. Is that right?
Yes, we donated to...
You donated? Shh, put your hand down. Explain that to me. You had a van.
Right.
The van was the church's van, and it had a logo on it.
Yes, we retired it.
She bought the van at auction. Put your hand down, madam, and stop moving around. You're making me very seasick. Just be quiet and behave. So far, you're not losing. But don't irritate me. The money that was retrieved from this auction went back to the church?
Yes.
So you sold the van. She bought the van. Your lawsuit involves a request to have her remove and paint the logo so that nobody can see that it belonged to the church. Is that right?
Yes.
Why?
Reason being is that we have an outreach ministry that we do a work out in Los Angeles County, and our name is vividly seen in the neighborhoods, and that's the reason why...
And it was on the van?
Yes.
You have a picture of the van?
Yes, I do.
Let me take a look at the picture of the van with the logo on it. While I'm looking at that, Mr. Dawson, who was in charge of making the arrangements to give the van out for auction?
The pastor of our ministry.
All right, now I see it. It's got your name all over it. Now I see it. How much did you pay for it?
I paid $800.
Good. And when you got it, it had these markings on it?
Yes, it did.
And you don't want the markings on it?
No.
Not in her possession?
No.
So why don't you take them off before you sold it?
Well...
What does that have to do with her? Where are you people coming from? Put your hand down a second. Where are you people coming from? You want to sell this, you turn it over to an auctioneer, they sell it, and now you're suing her. Stop, listen to me, Miss Wade. If you don't give me the attitude, I am totally unimpressed with your attitude, and it's irritating. You don't want to pass this along to somebody? You paint it over before you sell it. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, but they had made an agreement that they would be taken off before...
Who made the agreement?
The auctioneer, the person who would purchase the van, would take it off.
Who made the arrangement? You made the arrangement with her, or somebody made the arrangement with the auction house?
With the auction house.
Sue them! What are you suing her for?
Can I say something?
What?
The reason we're suing her is because our ministry is very popular throughout Southern California, Anaheim, even in San Diego. We do a very good work with children, gang prevention, youth.
Very nice. What? Keep going.
The reason I'm saying this is because they're going around in our van representing our ministry, cursing, screaming, yelling.
Miss Dawson.
Yes, ma'am.
They are not representing your ministry. She's driving around in a van that she bought, that your ministry failed to ensure did not have its logo on it because it turned it over to an auction house to sell it with the logo on it. And if you didn't want the logo on it, paint it before you sell it.
I understand that, ma'am.
Period. End of discussion. She's not holding herself out to be your ministry. She's driving around in a van she purchased. You want her to spend more than $800?
Yes, she is. She's representing our ministry. She said that she takes the youth around in our ministries. They like it on there. They don't want to take it off. We offered to take it off for them, to take it off professionally, and they said no. He likes it on there. He was belligerent. He cursed. He threatened my pastor's wife. He called the church.
That's it. He liked it.
Yeah, but it's
representing
our
folk
ministry.
art.
It's representing our ministry. We get calls from all over the Southern California area, from Torrance to Los Angeles, complaining that how could our ministry do something like that, curse with children around. We don't do that. They're misrepresenting our ministry, and they won't take it off. Who would want to drive around with a Youth Action for Christ Jesus sign when they don't even represent Christ? We represent Christ.
Let me, madam, give you an example that maybe you will understand.
Yes, ma'am.
The Beatles used to tour this country on a bus.
Yes, ma'am.
And they had the word Beatles on the bus. Trademark. Now, let us say at the end of their tour, they decided that they had no further need for this bus, and they were going to sell it. And they put an ad in the paper. Take away the third party, the auction house. They put an ad in the paper. I see this ad and I say, gee, I would really like to have a Beatles bus. I'd like to have a bus that I knew the Beatles drove around in, and that had their name on it, that had their pictures on it. I want that. And I'm prepared to spend the money for it. So I answer the ad. They say the bus is $25,000. I say, sold. That's what I want. I want to take my kids touring, my kids and my grandchildren. I want to be stuck in a bus with my grandchildren, right, touring the country in this Beatles bus. Paul McCartney says, you got to take, after I pay the $25,000, you got to take our name off the bus.
I understand.
I said, no, you want to sell this bus without your name on it, take it off. I bought it with the name on it.
I understand.
It's my bus.
Yes, ma'am.
She bought the whole package.
She sure did.
And if your minister made a mistake by not removing the logo before he turned it over for sale, that's his problem.
Can I clarify something? My husband failed to mention that my minister was responsible for letting us take the van. We were responsible for taking the names off. We failed, and we're trying to take care of it now. My ministry is not responsible for it.
You can't.
I called the police, and they said the only thing I could do is go to small claims court to petition to them to take it off. She met with my husband, and she was very nice about saying okay.
What I'm telling you is, if she wants to, she can. If you want to give her money, maybe if you give her money, she'll say, fine, I'll take it off. Maybe $400 would make it feel better for me. Well, maybe, but you cannot require her. Because
we didn't require her. We asked her, and she was very nice. She was very humble, and she said, sure, to come take it off. We called her husband. He said, who do you think you are calling my house? You're not going to take anything. He cursed. He said, if you say another word, I'm going to hang up in your face.
I heard you, Miss Dawson. You're not listening to me.
I'm sorry.
You're not listening to me. If it was your responsibility, you didn't take care of your responsibility. You can't clean it up now. I'm telling you, you cannot require her to take off the logo from the bus because you don't like the language she uses or somebody uses when they're in the bus driving around. You cannot require her to do that.
It's not just the language.
I don't care what it is. I don't care if she was mooning people when she was driving around with your bus.
I understand
you
that.
cannot require her to do it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He pulled out the razor blade and was starting to proceed to take the lettering off my van. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. You can't take this off my car right now.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anthony Dawson and his wife Kimlin are suing Danye Wade for misrepresenting herself as part of their ministry. The Dawsons say Danye purchased a van from their church and refuses to remove the logo.
Now, you may pay her and say to her, listen, let's enter into an agreement, and perhaps I will, I'll give you money. You want some money to remove this from the bus?
Yes, if they want.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Here we go. How much money do you want?
I want 15 for it. 1,500 for it.
Well, you only paid 800.
Can I explain why?
No, just a minute. You only paid 800. So explain to me. Explain to me why you want 15. You're going to. Let me explain something. You're going to get nothing.
Okay.
Because
okay,
what I'm trying to do is to make an arrangement that will satisfy everybody.
Okay.
It would have to be a voluntary arrangement. Do you understand? Not something that's loony.
Okay.
So, if you want some money so that they will paint it, give it a nice fresh coat of paint, that sounds reasonable to me.
Okay, but may I explain to you the reason why I want 15 for it?
Sure.
Okay, because first of all, when I bought the van was $800. I paid $400 to register the car. Didn't have a problem. When I bought the van, my intentions was to take the lettering off because I didn't want it. I wanted to paint it one color, and I couldn't afford it. You know, I just didn't have the money to buy it. Okay, one day I was shopping at a store. I came out my store to this man right here, this minister, at my van, doing something to my van. Okay, when I got to you weren't even there.
Shh. Oh, yes, she was. Just a second. Put your hand down.
Some little girl. Okay.
Listen to me.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Say okay.
Okay, so
I don't want you. Okay. I don't want you to talk to them. You talk to me. Okay. You understand? You came out of a store. What was he doing to your van?
At that time, I didn't know what he was doing because when I walked out the store, I could see him at the van, and as I got closer to the van, he was walking away, and then when I got to the van, me and my son, he walked towards me, and I asked him what was he doing. And he was like, he identified himself, I'm the minister of this church, and I thought when they sold you the van, they took the lettering off of it. And I was like, no, they didn't. I bought this like this, but I have intentions on taking it off. And he asked me, he was like, well, can I take it off? I was like, sure. I gave him the number. I said, let's make arrangements. And he pulled out the razor blade and was like, he pulled out the razor blade, and I can describe exactly what kind of razor blade. It was like a box cutter. He pulled out the razor blade and was starting to proceed to take the lettering off my van, and I was like, wait a minute, hold up. My baby looking in the car, he looking out the window. I'm like, you can't take this off my car right now. You cannot do this. We have to make arrangements. I just told you to call me. I jumped in my car. I put off. I went home. I told my neighbors and everything. I was like, you won't believe what just happened to me.
Now
okay.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
So, just a second.
I'm like, you won't believe what just... Okay.
Miss Wade, now you told me what happened. Now, you're moving around. You're making me very, very dizzy. Either one of two things are going to happen today. Either I'm just going to send you both packing because they have no case. You have no case on a counterclaim. If you are prepared to have them pay to repaint the van, how much are you prepared to accept so that they will be happy and according to you, you will be happy? And don't tell me $1,500 because $1,500 is going to buy you the door.
Okay, can I say something now? He took letters off the van. It's letters off the van. His name is off the van.
Fine.
Half of his letters. I didn't tell him to do that. Fine. I told him let's make arrangements.
Fine. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Wade. Let me ask you this question. Miss Wade, you're not following what I'm saying. I asked you for a figure. So, how much will it cost to paint the van?
Well, I went to Earl Shy and they said $600 to repaint
the
car.
$600 to repaint it. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, are you prepared to spend $600 to correct your mistake? Is the question. The answer is either yes or no, you're not. You have no case. So she wants $600 so that she can, or you can, take it where they paint cars and have it painted.
We offer to have it removed professionally. We don't want to pay $600 to have it removed.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They sit there and act like he didn't pull out the razor blade.
We wouldn't even use a scraper. We were going to use a blow dryer on our property. It doesn't even work like that to remove it professionally.
Right. We had someone who was going to take it off.
That was a lie.
They sitting here putting on a show, acting like they didn't do it and act like I'm just so innocent. No, you're not innocent, not at all. You are hypocrites.
Graphic designer Lee Hill is suing her ex-boyfriend, sales manager James Johnston, for vet bills and property damage due to the negligent handling of her 21 cats.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 182 on the calendar in the matter of Hill versus Johnston.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Miss Hill, it is your claim that the defendant was negligent in taking care of the cats that he was supposed to be sitting for while you were on vacation. You had vet bills, you wanted to pay for emotional distress, for damage done to your apartment, all to the tune of $5,000.
Yep.
Mr. Johnson says he did the best he could under the circumstances. When did you make this arrangement with Mr. Johnston to take care of your cats?
This would be probably in about July of last year.
And how many cats do you have?
At that time, I had 21.
21 cats, and how large a space?
I think the house is about 2,000 square feet.
And how did you know the defendant?
He was my boyfriend at the time, and actually he insisted on watching the cats. He was at my house almost every night, and he went through my feeding rituals and everything, and because he was my boyfriend, and we'd spoken about getting married or living together, it was just, that's what he wanted to do, and that was fine with me because we were...
Where were you going?
I was going to Connecticut to visit my relatives.
So this was voluntary on his part. You weren't paying him to do this. He was doing it because he cared about you.
Right.
Why don't you tell me why you think he is responsible for any damage and what the damage was in your house as a result of his caring for your cats?
Okay. When he came to the airport to pick me up in my car, which I had never given him permission to drive.
That's not true.
When I came home and I opened the door, I also have a dog. The dog was not very happy to see me. When I opened the door to the main part of the house, I didn't see any cats. There were no cats that would come out to see me, and I was concerned about that because they're very happy. They love me and I love them. Well, bit by bit, I came upon them, and after about an hour, I found one cat, and I didn't find all of them. It turns out 6 were missing. In the end count, 6 were gone. I found one, and something was wrong with its tail. There was blood on it, and I said, "What happened to my cat?" He said, "I don't know. I don't know." So I went through the house, still, trying to find what happened, find them, and then he told me that one of them had died when I was gone. And I got very upset because I said, I was not told. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me, what happened? He said, "I just came home and it was dead." So I did at that point, I was very upset. I was actually getting hysterical. I didn't want him around. I wanted him to leave my house. I was screaming at him to leave the house. He wouldn't leave. Eventually what he did is to make me be quiet. He pushed me. I pushed away from him, wound up on the floor, and he was choking me, and he was cutting off my air supply. And he said that, I can't remember if he said he would break my neck or he would kill me if I didn't stop screaming. I couldn't get him to leave my house. I went into my living room and I locked the door, and I just stayed in there. I don't know I don't know if he slept in his van or what, but anyway, that was Saturday night, Sunday morning. The next day was Labor Day. I couldn't take the cat to the vet. The day after that, I take my cats. There are 2 cats. Both of these cats had been mutilated and abused, and I have pictures if you want to see them. There's a series of pictures. It's how they were before I left and what happened when I came back. They had to have several operations. One of them almost lost his leg. Several of the cats have had their teeth knocked out. I found this about...
Were the cats fighting with each other? Were they having cat fights?
He said that they were...
Shh, I'm asking you.
I have not seen... Oh, no, when I came back? No.
You have pictures of destruction in the house?
Yes.
You think that he destroyed things in your house?
Yes.
Let me tell you this. All right. I don't want you to be nutty about this. He didn't volunteer to take care of your cats to torture them. Something happened with your 21 cats and 1 dog when you were gone. But if you think that his intentions were to get you out of your house so that he could mutilate your 21 cats and dogs, that's demented. Do you understand?
Yes.
So you don't think he did that, right?
No, that was not.
So you think that something happened and things got totally out of control for him?
Yes.
Fair statement?
Yes.
That he bit off more cats than he could take care of. Right? And didn't know quite how to deal with it. I'm an animal lover, so I understand how hysterical you were when you came home. Was she hysterical, sir?
I wouldn't put it quite so mildly.
Mr. Johnson, you were the one who picked her. You were the one who volunteered to take care of 21 cats and a dog. I mean, you got to be a little bit bonkers to do that. That's a lot of responsibility, especially. I read your answer. You said a couple of these cats were crazy. They had to be kept in a room separate from everybody else and be fed separate, And even the plaintiff talked about in her testimony her feeding ritual.
Yep.
Which is, you had a couple of cats that were a little more aggressive.
There's an order to who eats, so they make sure that
if they eat out of order, it's havoc.
It's havoc. Well, you know,
I
Miss
mean,
Hill.
I'm supposed to eat and all. You see this, got 20 cats going at each other. It's,
You decided to assume the responsibility, Mr. Johnson.
I thought they were just little cats.
Mr. Johnson, you were there.
I know.
So you assumed the responsibility.
They're loving to her.
They weren't crazy about you.
Well, half of them were. The other half, oh my God.
Mr. Johnson, let me ask you this question. I don't want you to tell me everything that went on, because I have a few things after reading your answer. And, you know, we're not going to go on with this forever. I want to know, once you started to realize that you were over your head with this one, why didn't you call her in Connecticut and say you better come home?
Fear.
Fear of what?
Not following through with something that I had promised. We had talked about serious commitment and what goes along with that. And to be honest with you, I've never had a successful serious commitment in my life. And there's no way I was going to fail at this. That's why I insisted, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it right.
But you couldn't.
No, I couldn't.
But you realized that you couldn't early on, so that you have to call her and you have to say, I cannot.
We talked every day. She goes, how are the babies? And she's talking about the cats, like her children. Oh, they're fine.
So you lied to her.
Yeah.
So you
Otherwise, she's going to get on the plane, come down, and probably kill me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Either you did it on purpose or you did it because you were stupid.
I
Which
didn't
one
do
was it?
I had 3 baseball buddies over one evening.
That's stupid.
And later today,
Did you ever hear the expression, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yes.
That's what happened. They are two amoral people.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lee Hill says ex-boyfriend James Johnston was negligent while taking care of her 21 cats. James says the whole ordeal was a nightmare.
There was some flooding that's talked about. And in your answer, Mr. Johnston, you say, I was running a bath, but ended up getting very distracted by the precise feeding procedure I was to follow. The next thing I knew...
It was a book.
There was water all over the place.
You know how long it takes to feed 21 cats?
Just a minute. I'm asking
like
a question.
5 hours.
Just a second. What were you doing? Mr. Johnson, who were you bathing?
Me. I was getting ready to... I got there about 9:30 at night. I had worked all day. It was
Just a
hot.
minute. So you were staying at her house?
Yeah. We were basically living together. Unofficially.
Just a second. Unofficially. I don't care. I just didn't know
there
why you were running a bath when you were supposed to be feeding the cats. So you were living there.
I'm walking around naked, got the water going. I'm getting things ready.
I understand. So he was living in your house?
Yes.
All right. He was living in your house, and you had the keys to your car.
No, I never gave him the keys to my car.
Well, you must have left him home.
On the dresser.
No.
You mean he hot-wired your car?
No. When I came back, this person went through everything in my house.
That's not true.
And the key which was in a drawer. The reason I didn't say to him you could drive the car is because he doesn't have a good driving record. My insurance doesn't cover him, and it would be better not to go into that, make a mess out of that. I don't give him the key, he can't drive the car.
All right. Miss Hill, I think Mr. Johnson had the obligation, once he assumed the responsibility, to perform it properly. And if he could not, which he realized right away, according to him,
The third day.
he had the obligation to tell you when he spoke to you, day one, listen, you better get somebody else here to take care of your cats because I can't do it. And he chose not to do that.
Yeah.
Now I'll see your vet bills.
Okay.
How many cats do you have now?
I have 18.
How many cats?
I have a few other questions or statements to make.
Go ahead.
If you do want to take care of them, I don't know how this is good taking care of a cat. I have part of the other part of that broom with cat fur on it. I don't understand how that is good taking care of anything well. Running the bath that runs over, that floods the clothes, ruins the clothes, ruins shoes. I have some boots here that were ruined that were in the closet on the floor. I also have a box of photographs, just like my family when I was younger. It was in a big box, like a boot box, in a closet. I came back, and I kept finding things for months I've been finding things. And I find a wet bath towel that was put in the box, closed in the box, and put in the closet. I don't understand why this was done. This has nothing to do with the cats. This to me is malicious. I don't know why he did it, but he did it.
Maybe he's just stupid.
That's not what well, for taking
Just a second. Just a second. Either you did it on purpose or you did it because you were stupid. Which one was it?
I had 3 baseball buddies over one evening.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I got out of hand.
So either you did it on purpose or you did it because it was stupid. It was stupid. If you had 3 baseball buddies and one of them acted like an idiot, that's your fault.
2 of them did.
I also requested that nobody come to the house for the simple reason that there are a lot of cats. And the more people that are there, the more doors are left open, the more chaos that can be. So
Nobody believed me about the amount of cats. I had to show them.
I also have estimates for the carpeting.
I'm not considering that. You left him in your house. He was living with you. That's your problem. You picked somebody who's unreliable. That's your problem. Vet bills are something else because this was a separate and unique thing. He said he would take care of your cats. That was your arrangement with him.
Yes.
If he couldn't do that, he had a responsibility, and the responsibility was either to board them or call her and say, get on a plane to come home.
There was one other option available that I wish I had taken.
Which was?
Her mother. She was a phone call away. She called me every day to make sure everything was okay.
Well, then you could have done that too, but she shouldn't have any out-of-pocket expenses because of your negligence in taking care of the cats. That was your agreement with her. And you have to take care of it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,389. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The cat's tail got hurt because it was in a fight, and I yanked it out.
Then later on he said he accidentally electrocuted it.
I did what I could under the circumstances.
He's got was it a medical valor or a Purple Heart? I can't remember which. So, I mean, I don't believe it.
If you need to make a promise, make sure you can do it.
I had to lock myself in part of my house to keep away from him.
22-year-old daycare provider Christina Harding is suing her former roommate, 23-year-old real estate agent Charity Zymet, for unpaid rent and bills after she broke the lease.
Order. All rise. All rise, please. Your Honor, this is case number 129 on the calendar in the matter of Harding versus Zymet.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats, please.
Miss Harding, you and the defendant signed a lease for a house.
Yes.
It's a large house. You were the only 2 people on the lease?
Yes.
You moved into the house with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Boyfriend?
Yep.
Miss Zymet moved in with her 2 children?
Yes.
And there was someone else living in the house too?
Yes.
Who was that?
Her witness, Jolene.
Miss Zymet moved out early.
Yes.
And you believe that she should be responsible for the 7 months that was remaining on the lease?
Yes.
Ms. Zymet says that she was forced out because of assaultive behavior by both you and your boyfriend.
Yes.
Okay. When did you sign the lease?
November 1st.
Of what year?
2001.
Did you know each other before you signed the
Yes.
lease? For how long?
Since the 9th grade, about 1994.
So you've known each other a long time?
Yes.
Was there any reason why your 2 names were the only names on the lease?
We were going to move in with another girl that backed out at the last minute, and that's when we had decided to let Jolene move in.
And what about your boyfriend?
He just never signed the lease. It was just between the
Why?
2 of us. I don't know. We just never had put him on it.
But he actually moved in?
Yes.
What was the total rental on the house?
$1,600.
And what was the defendant's responsibility on the lease?
$550.
I'm going to go to you, Ms. Emmett. When did problems arise that you say caused you to move out?
Well, problems arose as soon as we moved in. She was, in my opinion, acting jealous over me and Jolene talking. She would slam doors around. She was just not making it comfortable to be there at all. And then every week it seemed like there was something different that happened. You know, at the beginning of January when she shoved me into a gate, which I have a picture of a bruise that she left on my back.
Well, tell me about that. What?
Well, it was New Year's Eve. I happened to leave them at the club, not purposely.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, we were at a dance club.
Who was?
Drinking. All of us. And we all left, and I was supposed to bring 2 people home, which I didn't. Not on purpose. No. Not on purpose. Didn't bring them home, which included Jolene and Archie's sister.
You all went to a dance club.
Right.
You were supposed to take 2 people home.
Right.
Jolene and the boyfriend's sister.
Yes.
You didn't do that.
Right.
You say you didn't do that on purpose.
Right.
Because she was highly intoxicated.
You did it. It was accidental.
Right.
But something happened when you got home?
Right. As soon as I walked out of the garage, she came running at me and pushed me into the gate, and the gate handle left a bruise on my back.
And you say you have photographs of it?
I have a photograph, yes.
That's not true, Your Honor.
I'll get to you in a second.
It's hard to see, but you can see.
Okay. Go ahead.
Then the very next weekend, on a Saturday, We were all at the house drinking after the, just having a little party at the house after the bar. And
After what bar?
After just the bar on a Saturday night, you know.
So you went to a bar Saturday night and you were drinking?
Right, all of us.
And then you came home and you continued to drink?
Right.
Where were your two children when all this drinking was going on?
My children were with their father.
Do they live with their father on the weekends?
Well, it was every other weekend.
Go ahead.
And Archie was, you know, intoxicated. He was yelling at his sister. Me and Jolene were sitting in the kitchen, and we just really didn't want to hear it, you know, like yelling and stuff. So I stood up. I said, it's okay. That's all I said. He started cursing at me and proceeded to throw me across the kitchen. And when I got up, I was crying. And when I was walking away, he poured his beer down my hair. I did call the cops, which I have records of that.
You just have a record that you called the police. You don't have a report.
Right. Here's what happened after I called the cops. I was upstairs in my room when I called the cops. And when they got there, I didn't realize I was upstairs, couldn't hear nothing. And then her and all his family came upstairs to ask me if I called the cops, but they said it.
That is not true.
You didn't call the cops, did you?
I'll get to you in a second.
You didn't call the cops, did you? And I didn't realize the cops were standing right down the hallway, so I said no because I didn't, want to say it to them.
All right. So those were the two instances that you're complaining about that caused you ultimately to move out?
Them are the two biggest ones, yes.
You're Archie.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pour a beer on her?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
I figured you did. Why?
Because I thought that she interfered with something that didn't really have to do with her. She was not in the same room like she said she was when my sister and I had gotten into an argument. We were just talking, just how brother and sister normally do. And she came out of the kitchen, started yelling at us, started swearing at us. She started chewing me out, saying I didn't have no business talking to my sister like that. My sister had said some pretty offensive things to some people.
Okay, so she just came out and she was yelling at you.
Yes.
And what did you do?
I asked her if she could please, get away from our conversation. I was talking to my sister. I didn't think she had any business being there. She kept on insisting on trying to get in between us, trying to push us apart from each other. It wasn't getting physical. It wasn't getting very loud. We were just having a few words, and she intervened.
She's intervening in a family situation. So
Yeah.
what did you do?
So I asked her on several occasions.
You told me he's asked her to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Move out.
Both
Go.
I asked her on several occasions to please sit down, please leave us alone, we're trying to talk.
All right, so you asked her, and she didn't.
She did not.
What happened next?
Then she pushed me.
She pushed you. How did
pushed
she
me
push
back.
you?
She pushed me by my chest like this.
You mean she put her hands on your chest
Yeah, she put
and
my
pushed
hands
you?
on my chest, yes.
Yes, and what did you do?
I just dumped my beer on her after that. I got frustrated that the fact that she would not, quit talking to me and my sister. I was trying to have a
Did you
conversation
push her
with my
back?
sister. No, I did not. Your Honor.
You just poured your beer on
I
her.
just poured my beer over her head, yes.
And at that point, you were angry.
I was a little upset.
Put your hand down.
I was a little upset, Your Honor. I was not angry. I work at a high stress level job. I don't get angry.
Archie, was it becoming increasingly unpleasant living in the house with the defendant?
Yes, it was, Your Honor. She.
It was very unpleasant. It was unpleasant for you?
Yeah, it was pretty unpleasant.
Was it unpleasant for you?
Yes.
Good. So that you were not unhappy when she left?
Not necessarily.
Good.
Well, I had tried to work things out with her. I tried to sit
No,
down and
you're
talk
not.
to her a
Once
number
she
of
has a fight
times.
with your boyfriend, you're not working things out with her.
It was before that also.
Once she has a fight with your boyfriend, you're not working things out with her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She and our other roommate had brought numerous guys over that we all had baseball bats and shovels and jumped my boyfriend. He ended up going to the hospital with 8 staples in his head.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina Harding says former roommate Charity Zymet owes for breaking a lease. Charity says she feared for her safety.
Now, you moved out in January?
Yes. Well, I paid January's rent, full January's rent, but I moved out at the beginning, but I still had some stuff there until the end of January.
Okay. Is that true?
No, she did not move out. She put a padlock on her door, and she would come every day, pick up a little of her stuff, and go.
Well, that's what she says. She says she moved out, but she left her stuff there
Yes,
through
she
the end
didn't
of the month.
officially
And she
move
did
out till
pay
the end of January.
And she did pay January's rent.
Your Honor, she did not move out. She was there just about every night of the week.
Fine, but she paid January.
Yes.
Okay. Come February, is she gone?
Yes, she was gone the end of January, but she had not given me any notice.
If you think that I don't see your hand, I do see your hand. I'm not interested in asking you any questions right now.
Your Honor, I asked her numerous times when I could plan on her moving out so that I could find another roommate.
Okay, so now you know at the end of January she's gone. What did you do to find another roommate?
I had asked her numerous times throughout January when she would be out so that I could find another roommate.
You're not listening to my question.
Your Honor, she was...
I said now you know at the end of January she's out. What did you do then to get another roommate?
I had another roommate set up to move in on March 1st. And she and our other roommate brought numerous guys over that were related to Jolene. And they all had baseball bats and shovels, and they jumped my boyfriend. He ended up going to the hospital with 8 staples in his head. And that caused my roommate not to move in. She was scared to live with us.
And when did that happen?
On February 3rd. I have pictures and hospital reports of what happened.
Is anybody arrested?
No, it's still pending investigation.
It's a pending criminal investigation.
So I could not get a police report. It's not been released yet. You're talking to a homicide investigator.
Did she move out too?
No,
after that night, after February 3rd.
Okay.
Earlier that night at the club, she was trying to fight with me. My boyfriend stepped in the middle of us. She broke a beer bottle over the side of his head. And so then the bouncers jumped on her, took her out of there. He was trying to press charges. They said she was going to detox. She showed up at the house within an hour. And then within an hour after that, there was about 8 to 10 guys. They were about to break the window to get in the house when my boyfriend opened the door. They pulled him outside. They all had baseball bats and shovels. He was beaten pretty bad, as you can see in those pictures. His cousin and his sister also ran out there and were pretty beaten up too.
What makes you think that the defendant had anything to do with this?
Because I saw her driving away from there after the guy. She was sitting there on the street in her car when this was all going on. After the police were starting to come, she backed around the corner of the block.
After she supposedly moved out of the house, Your Honor.
You mean on February 3rd?
Yeah.
Yes.
This young lady was with her in the car?
She was in one of the cars. She had gone out the side entrance and she had gotten into a car somewhere else when all this had happened. She must have got in the car before that. When I saw Charity back down the street, she was in the car by herself.
When was the lease up in the apartment?
It's not up until August 31st.
Who's living in the house now?
Just the 2 of us. We have still yet to find a roommate.
Where are you living now?
I own a house. I had just moved out from my kids' father for a short period of time.
Go back. You're living in a house that you own?
Yep.
When did you purchase the house?
August of 2001.
If you purchased the house in August of 2001, what were you living with them for?
There was problems between me and my kids' father, so I decided to move out for a short time.
So you're back in that house now?
Yes.
Who are you living there with?
My children and my kids' father.
Were you at the house? I'm not going to ask any questions about that. That's part of a pending criminal investigation, so I'm not going to ask any questions about where you were on February 3rd.
Your Honor?
What?
I had an apartment with my boyfriend before. I decided to move in with her and another friend that was going to be getting a divorce from her husband. And she decided to stay with her husband. We were fine in the apartment we had. I decided I wanted to help her out because she wanted to get away from her kids' father. She was dating my boyfriend's friend at the time, and she wanted to get out of that house. She wasn't planning on going back there. She signed the lease till August 31st.
Did you speak to the landlord before you moved out?
Yes, I did. Quite a few times. He told me he would take me off the lease, and that's where I was renting from.
I never received another lease.
Were you, in fact, removed from the lease?
Well, he kept saying he was...
Not well. The answer is either you were removed from the lease or you were not.
Yes, definitely.
Show me.
I don't have any proof. He lives in another state.
Well, you have no proof, and it wasn't then. The only lease that I have is the one that you originally signed.
Well, I spoke to him on the phone quite a few times, and he told me that he would take me up, that he did take me up.
I don't listen to what you tell me. That is hearsay. If you have a lease or a document from the landlord that indicates that you were removed from the lease and your obligations under the lease have been terminated, I will see that. You don't have that. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, what efforts did you make to try to find a new roommate to assume your responsibilities under the lease?
It was not my responsibility to find a new roommate.
No, whose was it? Bird's? Whose was it?
Well,
you have a lease.
Correct.
You have an obligation under the lease.
Yes.
Ordinarily, I would say that they have an obligation to mitigate their damages.
Well,
which
she told me...
speaking. I want you to try to learn something today. Every day should be a learning experience.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina Harding says former roommate Charity Zymet owes for breaking an apartment lease. Christina also claims Charity sent friends to beat up her boyfriend, Archie White Eagle.
Listen to me. They have an obligation, if they know that you're moving out, to try to mitigate their damages by finding someone to assume the remainder of your lease. Unless I find that there is some evidence that you and your girlfriend over here have done something that would make it difficult for them to find a new roommate. You also have a responsibility, because if you sign a lease and if you move into a home with the understanding that neither of you could afford this on your own, but together you could afford to maintain a big house like this, then you have a responsibility not only to your landlord, but also to your co-tenant. So I'm asking you, you did not do anything to find another roommate?
Well, she, at first we did agree about a 2-month notice of getting out. Now, I don't know why she's going for the whole lease. I think she's just upset that the person did not move in, which I do not know the person that was going to move in, but Jolene does. She said that she didn't want to move in the first place. She was just saying she was going to move in to be nice, and this is all what she told Jolene. She said she was never planning on moving in.
Then find somebody, and I'm asking you, what efforts did you make to find somebody? And if your answer is simple, you made no effort to find anybody. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. Listen to me. It was not a pleasant situation living there in the house, clearly. Everybody made a mistake, and everybody's got a bad temper. You had no right to pour beer over her head.
Correct.
None. And she had, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, if she was a reasonable parent, which I'm not so sure about, a lot of drinking going on there, even if her children weren't home.
And her children were there every weekend.
Are you trying to talk over me?
No, I'm sorry.
So I think it's probably a very good idea that she left. Now, are you current in your rent?
Yes.
How are you managing it?
It's really hard.
Do you
I
work?
have tried to start daycare, and I haven't gotten very many children because of the pending investigation, and my boyfriend has been picking up just about most of the rent.
What kind of work do you do?
In security.
Okay, so you've been paying the rent?
Yeah.
Now, when you moved into the house, did you put down security?
Yes.
How much?
I put down 1,000, Charity put down 600, and I have lost that now.
Why?
The landlord said since she moved out, she forfeited her part of it, and...
Oh, no. Don't give me baloney. Security deposit is for any damage that's done. So you don't forfeit that until you move out.
That's just what the landlord said, and I'm going
and you
to
only
fight that
forfeit that if you move out and there's damage to the property. Is there damage to the
Charity
property?
Yes, I have
the-
pictures of
the
how she left her
place
room
damaged.
also. Holes in the walls and trash all over.
Well, trash it and clean up.
Yes.
Holes in the walls is different.
Well, we had to pay for that trash to get hauled away also, Your Honor, out of our own pocket.
Arch, is there anything physically wrong with you?
No.
You had to pay somebody to sweep up?
No, I said we had to physically pay to remove all of her trash that she left
When
there.
you say
out of-
physically pay, what does that
We
mean,
had to pay
Archie?
the trash.
We had to pay the trash bill to have all of that stuff hauled away.
No, that's not a big deal. We're not looking at a big deal here. Listen, Miss Zimet, you skipped out on a lease, and you had no reason to skip out on that lease, as far as they're concerned.
And as far as they're concerned, I guess not. In my mind, I did.
You're not speaking for a very good reason, madam. You're not speaking because there is currently an investigation that is pending with regard to a very serious assault. And I don't want to hear you because I don't want you to inculpate yourself or anyone else in this incident that occurred on February 3rd.
There's other incidences that happen, though.
But I'm not going to let you pick and choose what you want to talk about.
Okay.
Perfect. Now we understand each other? Good. She has a $600 security deposit. I suggest you putty up the walls so that you don't lose that part of the security deposit. She moved out, she paid January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Is that right?
August.
No. August will be covered by her security deposit. I will prepare an order that her security deposit is to be released to you.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
That covers your last month's rent. So it's 6 months at $550 is $3,300.
I also have bills that she didn't pay for December and January.
What bills?
The trash bill of the electric bill, the water bill, and the cable bill.
Good. Consider that paid for by the dumping of the beer over her head. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,300. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
very vindicating. Feel that Judge Judy was on her side and that she sided with the correct side and that she made the correct decision.
I don't agree with the judgment.
I will choose my friends and my roommates very wisely from now on.
I think she shouldn't have got anything.
She's been telling people lies about me.
All the lies she said in there?
The things she said in the courtroom, that my boyfriend pushed her, that I pushed her. That's not true.
That they didn't push me? That they both didn't push me when they both did?
I've never laid my hands on her.
They're rude. They're physically violent.
It's not true.
Nobody should be friends with her.
I just moved in that house to help her out, and now I'm the one suffering for it.
We weren't that great of friends for 9 years.
Be respectful to Judge Judy. She's pretty okay.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hardy versus Beaton. Step forward, please.
Groundskeeper Robin Hardy is suing Judy Beaton for dumping horse manure on her car. Judy admits she vandalized the car, but says Robin intentionally spooked her horse.
All right, Miss Beaton, I think we're going to start with you because you seem to acknowledge that you did, in fact, touch in some way the plaintiff's car. And you're going to tell me why you did that. Tell me when this incident happened and where you were.
Yes, Your Honor. It was March 12th. I was riding my horse on this road. I have photos if you'd like to see them.
Yes.
It's a very narrow, windy road with no sidewalks or sidebar to get off of the pavement. And I was almost back to my barn. I have to travel on the road about 100 yards from the trail to the barn. So I was just about to the driveway of the barn when I hear someone beeping in back of me 2 times, very long honking. My horse kind of caved in the back and took off down the road at a quick pace. And I wasn't ready for that, you know, and I was almost toppled off. And I turned and I saw someone with a black car. And I yelled at the person. I said, "What are you, crazy?" And the person yelled back at me.
Person was the plaintiff?
Yes. I said something like, "What are you, a freaking idiot?" And she said, "Get out of the road," and passed me very close. As she passed me, she cut the wheel hard, almost hitting my German Shepherd dog who was in front of me, and sped off down the road. I tried to get a plate number, but I could just get a few initials, so that was it. And I went back to the barn, and I untacked my horse and put my horse away. I was really upset about it. You know, my heart was pounding, and I've broken several bones on my horse before, and I have 4 children at home to take care of, so...
You took the saddle off your horse, and what did you do?
I got a bag, grain bag here, and I put horse manure in it, and I started to drive home, thinking I might run into her car or her, because I thought maybe she was going to walk her dogs that were in the car at the reservoir down the road. So as I drove home, I did see her car. It was the only car in a parking lot marked DPW vehicles only, so it wasn't very hard to find it. And I pulled in next to it, and I took out the bag out of my car here. It's a paper bag. It's not going to cause any damage. And I had horse manure in the bag, and I shook the horse manure onto the trunk of the car, and I got in my car, and I drove away.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I do not have a trunk of a car, and I find it ridiculous that she'd be driving around with horse manure looking for trouble.
Tell me what happened.
Okay, I was driving down the road with my dogs to take them to the res for a walk, and I was going around a corner, and I seen the defendant in the middle of the road. I've had horses. I know horses will spook if the wind blows. So I stopped. She didn't notice me, so I beeped real lightly, 2 quick beeps, and she turned around. She didn't even move. She turned around and screamed, "What are you, an effing idiot?" So I slowly went around her, and I yelled back to, you know, get to the side of the road wherever I yelled. I went to the res, walked my dogs, came back, and my hood windshield was covered with horse manure. Flipped out.
That was flaky, that flaky horse manure that she has there, or was it other kind of horse manure?
It wasn't that flaky.
What was it?
It wasn't wet, fresh horse manure.
It was more like that?
Yeah, but
Okay.
not quite as dry and fluff.
Okay. So what did you do?
I called the police. They came down. They
And
helped
your
me.
windshield was covered?
Yes, and where the blades are, the wipers, it was packed in there. So that night, actually, I had to go somewhere, and I put my heat on. You could hear all the horse manure in the engine spitting out at me. I mean, I was really upset about it.
How did you find her?
I went to the stable the next day.
Because you figured it was her?
Yes, and I went there and seen her with her horse and told her. She stated it was not her. She's a school teacher. She has 2 kids. She wasn't even there at the time. She doesn't have a German Shepherd dog. And then the next day I went back there to tell the property owners, you know, what people are doing. I seen the nephew, and he told me that she was there, and she does have a black dog.
Okay, so she ultimately fessed up that it was her.
Exactly.
Okay, what kind of damage was done to the car, other than the mess?
I have pictures. Would you like to see them?
Yes.
Okay. The dent's right here. It's black, so it's hard to see. It's right there. There's 2 pictures there with the dent on it. And the third one is just a side profile of the car to see the condition.
Did you get an estimate on fixing it? It's hard to see.
Yes.
Can I see
have
the
2 of
estimate,
them.
please?
Yes. In fact, I went with the lowest estimate. I tried to be so reasonable with these people.
Okay. Anything you want to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor. The reason I didn't admit that it was me the next day at the barn is because she brought her husband with her, and they both came walking at me with scowls on their face, wanting to know who this girl was. So I denied it because I was at the barn by myself. And I said, if you do find this girl, I said, what do you want from her? And they both said almost in sync, we just want an apology. Then as the days went on, it went to $1,100 for a new hood.
$685.
It went down. There was several estimates.
That's what happens when you have estimates.
So actually, I went to the police because she was relentless to the owners of the barn, showing up, wanting my name and address. I had given her my cell phone number that day at the barn because I wanted to take it off of the owner and let her deal with me. Because I figured she would find out that it was me and I would be the one.
Okay, so you finally fessed up. Why did you go that extra step? I'm just curious, Ms.
I was
Beaton.
just very upset, and I don't know. I was sorry after I did it, but it was too late.
It's the wrong thing to do. Go ahead.
So we actually had a conference call, Your Honor, with the Wilmington Police Department to settle this because it just went on.
I have that police report. If you'd
I'd like to see it.
It went on and on for days and maybe a week and a half, and I just want it to be over. So Officer from Wilmington Police Department.
It's the first paragraph, Your Honor.
Just a minute. Go ahead.
I had to go and file a no trespass order against Robin because she wouldn't stop going to the barn, and the owners were pressuring me to get rid of her because they were busy. They have children, and they didn't want her constantly stopping over there. So I filed a no trespass order against the barn address, not my address. And when I was at the Wilmington Police Department, he asked me if I would be interested in settling this, and I said yes. The next day, he called me at home, and we were both on the phone with Officer. And we talked, and I said, you know, I didn't damage your car. I may have put the manure on it. I did not dent your car. It's soft. I didn't do it.
Oh, but when you put the whole bag on the car in order to get it out, it dented the hood. It may have been very light stuff that was poured on it, but when all of it is in a bag and you fling it on a hood in order to spread it around, it caused a dent. Caused a dent, and you have to pay. And it was a stupid thing to do, Ms. Beaton. So you have to pay for stupidity. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $685. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
What can I say? I think it's outrageous that school teachers drive around with horse manure.
I still don't believe that it caused a dent. I think it was already there because her car's 6 years old.
And dump it where they want when they're in a bad mood.
I thought I might teach her a little lesson.
She's an idiot.
Fear for my safety, fear of falling backwards off my horse.
I wanted to find her and choke her.
Don't take the law into your own hands, maybe?
She is an idiot, that's all I have to say.
Case 2053, Johnson versus Blue. All parties, please come forward.
Rochelle Johnson is suing her sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, for unpaid rent and window blinds.
Ms. Johnson, the defendant is your brother.
That is correct.
And his co-defendant, your brother's wife. You had a home that was located in what state?
California.
Several years ago, you decided to move out of state, I think to Arizona?
Yes.
And at that time, you discussed with your brother and his wife renting your home. You entered into a lease with them. Was it a 2-year lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a written lease?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
That's a 2-year, and I also have a 6-month.
No,
okay.
Just the first lease first, because I'm old and I can only absorb a certain amount of facts at one time. It's a pretty straightforward lease. It's a lease for 24 months starting the 1st of July 2019 and terminating on July 1st, 2021. $1,600 a month rent, there's a small security deposit, and all the other terms and conditions are rather standard. Your complaint says that when you went to the state of Arizona, ultimately you ascertained that your health coverage, your lifetime health coverage, was not covered in the state of Arizona. You decided you wanted to move back to California. You don't even have to give a reason why you want to move back to California. You can move back to California into your house on July 1st, 2021. You understand that?
Yes. Yes.
Great. And you came back to California on what date?
I don't recall the exact date, but I also extended a 6-month.
I understand. When did you come back to California? In March. That's what you said here. I think in March.
Okay, right now I don't recall.
I think in March of 2022 is when you ultimately came back because they vacated sometime the beginning of March.
No, I came back prior to that. I stayed with my son for a year until
the lease was up.
Yes, ma'am.
Your son lives in California?
Yes, Beaumont, California.
Now, I'd like to see the extension of the lease for 6 months. Okay, so you acknowledge, Mr. and Mrs. Blue, that the 6-month extension that you both signed terminated on December 31st.
Yes.
Did you vacate the house on December 31st?
No, we hadn't found a place yet.
That's not her problem. That would be your problem. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st? On what date, sir, did you close on that property?
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago.
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in.
Rochelle Johnson claims her sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, owe for unpaid rent and window blinds. Monique and Antonio are countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Okay. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st?
No.
So you stayed beyond December 31st. Were you there in January?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes. Were you there in February?
Yes.
Were you there on March 1st?
Yes.
On March 2nd?
Yes.
On March 3rd?
Yes.
On what day in March did you move out?
March 5th.
Did you pay rent in the month of January?
No.
February?
No.
March?
No.
Okay. That's what she's suing for.
Right.
Well, you have a defense for not paying rent for those 3 months, which you clearly occupied her premises. Who wants to tell me why you didn't pay rent?
She told us in the beginning we were supposed to buy the house. We did numerous renovations to our house. We cleaned it up. And when we first moved in July 1st, it wasn't move-in ready.
I don't care. You lived there. Not only did you live there, you executed a second lease for another 6 months. You lived there from the beginning of the lease up until March 5th, which is 3 months beyond when you were supposed to be there. I'm waiting for a defense and not paying rent.
Yes. For July 2019, when we first moved in, the house was hideous. She had stuff in every room. We weren't able to move our stuff in.
Did you live there?
Yes, we had nowhere else to go.
I don't care. You had a choice. If the house wasn't in move-in condition, you break your lease, but you don't say at the end of the lease, by the way, when we were there 2.5 years ago, the house wasn't ready for us to move in. It wasn't in condition that we liked. We lived there anyway. So that's not an excuse for not paying rent at the other end. Anything else?
Yeah. She offered to give us the last month rent that we were there for free.
The last month?
The last month rent. I have the papers.
Well, I'd like to take a look at that, but you owe 3 months.
3 months? We moved off March 5th.
I don't care. You were there March 1st. That's the month.
Okay.
Did you indicate to them that you would give them a month off the rent?
Oh, no, ma'am.
She says that you did.
I'd like to see her evidence as well.
No, just shh. No, she agreed to waive the final month's rent for the period of April 1st, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. You were gone in March.
Right.
And your lease, for some reason, she agreed to waive rent for a month that you weren't there. She didn't waive January, February, or March. She agreed to waive it April 1, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. That's no evidence that she waived any rent.
We moved out on March 5th. Why do we still owe her for March?
Because you were there in March.
Okay.
If she was using the premises as a rental premises and you were leaving at the end of February, then she would have been able to rent her premises beginning March 1st. You don't move out until March 5th, the beginning of March. That means she needs a couple of days, or any landlord would need a couple of days to put the place in order and re-rent it. They wouldn't be able to re-rent until April. So you were there. Is there any reason you stayed until March 5th instead of... Just a second. You didn't let me finish the question. Is there any reason why you didn't move out the last day in February and instead stayed into March?
Because our house wasn't ready yet.
What do you mean it wasn't ready?
We wasn't ready to move in there yet.
What was wrong with it? Where did you move?
Victorville, California.
Okay. To what kind of property?
We bought a house.
Okay. When did you buy the house? What month?
We get close January something.
So you bought the house in January. Mm-hmm. When you inspected the house that you bought, did you buy it furnished or unfurnished?
Unfurnished.
Did you have furniture in the plaintiff's house?
Yes.
You'll give her the address so she can check.
Yes.
Great. Sarah, just look it up for me, please. On what date did you close on that property?
February?
No, don't.
February.
On what date, sir, did you close on that property? It's probably in the record.
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago. Is there an address?
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
2/7. So the house became yours on February 7th. That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in, to get it ready.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
All right. Fine. So you owe her 3 months' rent at $1,600 a month.
What about the renovations we did to our house?
Who cares? I live in a place for a couple of years, and I make changes to the place that I find make it more comfortable. There's nothing in this lease agreement that says that she has to reimburse you for things that she did, and this is not a rent-to-buy agreement. This is a straight tenancy agreement.
We were supposed to buy her house.
There are agreements that are rent-to-buy that list what the rental is and what the ultimate purchase price will be, and whether or not you can deduct the rent that you've paid or a percentage of it from the total purchase price, or whether you cannot. This is a straight rental agreement. So if you made improvements in the house, if you painted it, if you put in new carpeting to make it more comfortable for yourself, you don't get reimbursed for that because there's nothing in your lease that requires her to reimburse you for any improvements that you make in the house. You're bound by the four corners of the contract that you signed.
Well, what about how the conditions that we moved in?
Well,
that she doesn't.
Yes. By living there for 2.5 years, without, I assume, unless you can show me, without, I assume, a written complaint to her. Do you have that? Do you have a written complaint? No. I asked you, sir.
I have pictures.
$4,800. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you. You count the claims dismissed. It's ridiculous.
My mother's deceased, and it would actually hurt my mother to see us in court today. And that's my only regret, that I had to do that.
We're done.
The bottom line is, I am back in my house.
So I had a thought about that case because going through college, I think the first time I saw a lease was my sophomore year or so when I moved off campus. And my dad, luckily enough, was there to help me look over it and sort of teach me what a lease was, what the different sections meant, what I should really be looking out for. So in my mind, it would make sense for colleges to offer a basic life skills course to teach young incoming freshmen how to read a lease, how to negotiate on your behalf.
Did they offer that class at all to undergraduates?
It seems specified to business students or closed off to certain majors. Just to have some guidance would have been, I think, really helpful.
I think
Robbie Shelton and Scotty Foy for water damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2077, Zacco versus Sheldon Foy.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Zacco, you had some sort of a problem in a shower in your house.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me briefly what the problem was.
I had a small dribble coming from around a shower valve that was in my master bathroom shower.
Tell me what valve it was. You know, I'm not a...
Well, I have a picture that I can show you.
Just make a circle where the problem was.
I believe it was the top one.
Thank you. Who's Mr. Shelton? Let's change places with each other. Thank you. Okay, and you saw a water drip?
Yes, very fine little drizzle coming.
You saw water dripping, and according to my complaint, you had seen around the neighborhood a truck, Foy's Plumbing.
Yes, I have.
And that's how you got to Mr. Foy?
Correct. My neighbor had used him.
Did you speak to the neighbor, or did you just remember seeing the truck?
No, I spoke to my neighbor.
Okay. Can you tell me on what date you noticed the leak and on what date you spoke to the neighbor?
Probably around the 10th or so of December.
That was in a shower that you don't use, but your husband uses?
I'm widowed.
Okay, so who told you about the leak?
The housekeeper.
Okay. And then did you check it yourself?
Yes.
And this small leak had been there for a couple of weeks before you got to Mr. Foy?
Correct.
After you spoke to the neighbor and confirmed that this neighbor had used Mr. Foy, when you called Mr. Foy, did you actually speak to him?
No.
Who did you speak to?
It was a woman that answered the phone.
Who answered the phone? Do you know?
Alma did. I'm the office manager.
Okay, could you stand up, please? Tell me your name.
My name is Alma Valdez.
And you work for Mr. Foy?
Yes.
And you have a plumbing company?
Yes, ma'am.
How many employees do you have in the company?
Right now, only 3.
He's not one of them?
Yes, he's one of the employees.
How long has he been an employee?
Well, on and off 15 years.
What does that mean, on and off?
Well, a couple of times he went to work for another plumbing company and then came back.
Was he an employee of your company, pay careful attention, in December of 2021?
Yes, he was.
Okay. And paid on the books?
Yes.
Is he still an employee?
Yes, he is.
Do you recall receiving the call in December from Miss Seiko?
Yes, I got a call from her on, I believe it was December 28th, saying that she had a leak. And so we set up an appointment for the next day.
Do you remember the conversation you had with her? Did she tell you she had been recommended by a neighbor?
You know, I don't recall. We did set up the appointment for the following day.
That would be December 29th?
Yes.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Shelton was the person that Mr. Foy sent to you, and you were a full-time employee of Foy's Plumbing. Tell me what happened when you got there.
When I first got there, I noticed water running out of the handle.
It was dripping out of the handle because it had been there since December 10th.
It was streaming out. It was a pretty decent stream of water coming out.
The plaintiff doesn't use that shower, correct? So the first thing that someone would have done, even me, is turn off the water. Is that what you did?
Well, I wanted to go see what the leak really was.
Well, you looked
first, and then I went out and shut the water off, and then came back in to pull the cartridge to identify. And there's no markings on the plate, so I couldn't really tell exactly what brand it was. We do carry a variety of brands, but more of your typical
You're getting too technical with me, sir.
Okay.
This is what the case is about. He came out the same day, the 28th. He said he didn't have the part. You have other complaints about his behavior on that day. You say was a little bit off. He left without a different part being put in. And you called another plumber? When?
I called, actually, my contractor that night to come over and look at it. He came over in the morning,
So he didn't come over that night. He came over the next day?
Correct. The next morning, he gave me
No, you
referral.
can't tell me what he gave you. He's not here. It is your claim that because of the actions of Mr. Shelton, and which are attributable to Mr. Foy, who owns the company, you suffered severe water damage in your house, causing you to have to replace substantial flooring in the house, and you want Mr. Foy to be responsible.
Correct.
You have insurance. I just want to make sure you do have insurance. You're a company.
We're licensed in the state of California.
Okay.
We're required to carry insurance.
That's what the case is about. You want the company to be responsible. They did not come back and fix the problem. Someone else did, but by the time it was remedied, water had already seeped through and under the floors. You have evidence of that. Mr. Foy said that that's not his problem. So I'd like you to tell me what happened on the 29th when Mr. Shelton came. What time did he come in?
I think he came around 12:30. So we came in, went to the bathroom, looked at it, took out the cartridge. He did turn off the water. And then he said he had to go look for the part. He left. He was gone for over an hour, returned, said, I don't have the part, they don't have it. And as he's talking to me, his phone rings again, and it's the plumbing place, and they said, oh, we have the part. He left again for another hour. He comes back the third time, and he says, they still don't have the part. By this time, it's like 3 hours had passed, and I'm sitting in my living room, and I hear tools dropping in the shower. I said to him at one point, do you think you need to call for somebody else, some help? And he said, no, I can handle this.
Did he leave?
5 o'clock. I'm
left.
waiting. I have a friend that shows up at my house because we were going for dinner. And I said, well, we have to wait for the plumber to leave. And she goes, there's no car out front of your house.
You didn't know when he left?
No, I did not know when he left.
Did the shower look as if it had been put back in place? Did it look pretty much like this?
It was like that, but the stream of water that was minuscule before was much stronger.
Okay, that doesn't actually help you.
No.
That hurts you because he said the water was a pretty rapid, is that what you told me? Just 1 second. Could you read back, Whitney, how Mr. Shelton described the water?
He said it was streaming out. It was a pretty decent amount of water coming out.
Yeah, he said that was pretty decent when you got there. And I am correct, Mr. Shelton, that when you left the house that day, you had not found a part to fix it. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I am correct that when you went to disassemble it, you turned the water off.
Yes.
Because it was leaking.
Yes.
And then you didn't fix it because you didn't have the right part. And then you turned the water back on.
Mm-hmm.
Don't speak. Did you tell her that those were her options?
Yes. It would still
No
be leaking.
way.
It would still be leaking.
No way did you say to her, this shower is still going to be leaking.
Carla Sacco claims plumbers Robbie Shelton and Scotty Foy owe for damage from a water leak.
Now, when you left on the 29th without having put in an appropriate part because you couldn't find it, this leak which caused you to turn off the water because it was a pretty significant leak, you turned the water back on.
The reason why I turned the water off, because you had to take the cartridge out. If I left the water on and took the cartridge out,
Listen, Mr. Shelton.
I know, that's
Mr.
why I
Shelton,
turned the water
Mr.
off.
Shelton, you're not being a two-process thinker, sir. Let me explain something to you. I came to California from Connecticut to the place where we live in California. I walked into the master bath, to the toilet, et voila, I see a puddle of water around the toilet. I say to myself, self, you went to law school. You don't know what this is. But it's not a leak that's coming from the back. It's a leak that looks like it's coming from the bottom. So I called engineering. Fortunately, I live in a place where somebody will come up. They came up right away. The first thing they did was turn off the water. Smart, just like you did. Then they opened up the problem, looked at the problem and said, we need a part. Unfortunately, those are not the same parts that we keep in the hotel. We'll have to order it. Turned off the water. Use a different bathroom. For the 2-3 days it needs to get the part. You weren't there. So just pay attention to me, Mr. Foy. You weren't there. I'm just letting you know what common sense is living on the planet for a long time. If you have a leak that's caused by a faulty part, and you don't fix the part because you don't have the part, you turn the water off.
May I point something out? He had to turn off the water to the whole house because there is no shut-off to the shower.
Just a second.
He had turned the water off to the whole house, and he put this cartridge back before he turned the water on.
What difference does it make if he put the cartridge back? He has taken the cartridge apart.
No.
In order to see what it was, he took it out of the wall.
He took it out of the wall, but it does not take it apart.
Mr. Shelton, if your employee, and if what you're saying is accurate, which I don't actually think is accurate, because every room in a house usually has a turn-off valve, especially in the bathroom, so you don't have to turn off all the water to the kitchen and to other bathrooms, perhaps. If there's a problem in the shower, there's a master lever for the whole house, and then there are smaller levers for each.
For everything except the shower, ma'am.
What do you mean for everything except the shower?
The shower does not have an individual shut-off. You do indeed have to shut off the water to the house. The vanities, the toilets all have individual angle stops, but the shower does not.
Were you ever at the house?
No, ma'am.
No. So you were never at the house?
No, ma'am.
How many square feet is your house?
It's 2,500.
It's a substantial house. So you're telling me in a 2,500 square foot house, if you have a leak in the shower, you have to turn off all the water if you want to turn off the shower water?
Yes, ma'am. That's absolutely correct.
That's absolutely correct. Having not been there.
Yes, ma'am. I build houses.
No. I don't care what you build. You weren't in that house.
This has no shut-off, ma'am, other than the whole house. You have to shut the water to the house off to shut that off.
So now here's my question. Did you tell the plaintiff that she had two options, either to shut the water off in the whole house until you could get a part because there was still a leak, or you could leave it on, but you have to watch it because according to you, the water was substantial that was coming out. She said it was a trickle. You said, oh, no. It was a steady stream of water. And that was before you started messing with it. So my question to you is, did you tell her that those were her options? She's not a plumber. That you either had to turn off all the water in the house and you would return the next day with a part, or you could leave the water on, but it was still going to be leaking. Did you tell her that?
Yes. It would still be leaking.
No way.
It would still be leaking. Because it was leaking when I left.
No way, Mr. Shelton. No way did you tell her that. No way did you say to her, this shower is still going to be leaking because I can't shut the water off just to the bathroom. I have to shut off all the water in the house. If you're trying to sell me that story, I have a bridge I want to sell you because I don't believe it.
There's no way to isolate that valve?
I didn't ask you that.
When it comes to the shower...
You were never there.
Or the tub...
Just a second.
You can't turn it off individually.
You were never there. I have this question for you. How many bathrooms do you have in your house?
3.
When he left the first time and he shut the water off, did he indicate to you that you couldn't use the water anywhere in the house?
Yes. I believe he told me at first that he was going to shut off the water to the house.
Okay, so you knew. So you couldn't use any other of the toilets in the house?
No.
Okay, you may be getting better. When he left, did you use the bathroom? The answer is yes.
Yes.
So you knew that the water had been turned back on?
Oh, absolutely.
In the house. Just a minute. So you knew the water had been turned back on in the house, even though he didn't tell you I'm turning it back on. You knew. And you knew that he hadn't fixed the problem.
Correct.
So you knew that you better watch this, which is why you called your contractor to come and look at it.
Correct.
You're getting better, Mr. Foy. You're coming into a better place, you see? Things work themselves out. Now, you know that the water is still dripping. You know that there's still a leak.
Correct.
You know that if you use the water, that water is still going to be a steady stream coming out. You didn't get another plumber there until when?
The next morning.
Well, that's your contractor. You said he came the next morning.
No, I got a plumber there the next morning.
Okay. And they came, and did they fix the valve?
They had to open the wall to cap off the hot and cold water.
So it was a big job.
It was huge. I neglected to say it in the beginning, but when he took the shower valve off, he looked in the wall and he said, "It's dry in there, you're lucky." So that next morning when I walked into the master bedroom and I was walking in wet, I did call the Scotty boy. Mm-hmm.
Now tell me where you felt it when you walked into the master bedroom. Do you have wood floors there or carpet?
It's all wood. And it was right as I got to where the bathroom and the master bedroom meet. There's no door.
So it was outside that it was wet.
I thought my dog had an accident on the floor.
And prior to the 29th, it's not getting to look good for you again. Prior to the time, Mr. Shelton...
May I clarify? The room that she's talking about, the shower's here. Robbie's working in the shower where it's all tile. And we never went into her bedroom.
Yes, you did. You have to.
You can't tell me that because you weren't there. Is the bathroom adjacent to the bedroom?
So to get to the master bathroom, you have to walk into the master bedroom and make a left.
Okay. Now, Mr. Shelton, you recall saying to the plaintiff, when you looked in the wall, you're lucky it's dry in here?
I said it looks dry. I'm not next.
Just a second. Mr. Shelton, you wouldn't have said to her, it looks dry in here, I'm not an expert.
An expert on water
damage.
Say? Yeah, I didn't, you can't really see into that wall because it's tiled, right? You can't really look into the wall unless you open it, but there was no reason for me to open it.
Evidently, you're wrong. Either you were wrong that it was dry, or when you put the thing back together again, something didn't work. After he touched it, it was no longer leaking in the shower. Now it was going through the wall. I'm just telling you, that's the time sequence, unless you believe in miracles.
Carla Sacco has accused plumbers Robbie Shelton and Scotty Foy of causing water damage to her home. Robbie and Scotty claimed the leak had been there for weeks.
Mr. Foy, you have a lot to say for someone who was never there.
Someone who's been a plumber for 40 years.
Just a second. I've been alive with houses for longer than you've been a plumber. Right? And there are certain things just from being on the planet. This leak was first detected more than 2 weeks before your plumber got there, right? That's what she says. However, within that 2-week period, there was no water damage to the wood. The only time there was water, listen, you can shake your head all you like. This is the timeline.
We got cold because there was a leak, ma'am.
No, you got cold because there was a leak in the shower.
And according to her, it was leaking for 10 days.
Mr. Foy, what I'm telling you is, he would never tell me that when he got there, he noticed anything that would have suggested to him that he best keep the water off in that house because there was water damage. He didn't notice that. He just took it apart, couldn't find a part, put it back together again, whichever way he put it back together again, and the next morning, there was a flood. Now, that's the time sequence, because she called you the next morning, couldn't get you at 8:30. I don't know whether she used a house phone, I don't know if she used a cell phone.
A cell phone.
Cell phone. So she would have a record of calling you at 8:30 the next morning because there was a problem. She felt water. So before your technician got there was no water coming up in her bedroom on the wood. And that had been water dripping, he says, a lot. She said it was a trickle for 18 days.
Into the shower, ma'am. It was dripping into the shower.
Until he touched it. After he touched it, it was no longer leaking in the shower. Now it was going through the wall. I'm just telling you, that's the time sequence, unless you believe in miracles, things that, just happen. Something had been going on for 18 days, and there was no incident of water damage in her bedroom. Your technician comes, doesn't fix the problem, but takes it apart, puts it back together again. The next day, voila, there's water damage on the wood, which has to be replaced. Now, either that could have happened by itself, because your technician says, it's not my job, I don't look behind the wall, but he did acknowledge saying to her, it looks dry in here. Does acknowledge saying that. Now, if I had a plumber and the plumber said, I'm not the expert, I had a leak in my apartment with a leaky toilet. The floor started to go like this. Couldn't figure out where it came from. They came down, they pulled all the walls apart in the apartment. Water travels down. I said, well, if water travels down, why don't you go look at the apartment above me instead of pulling out the walls on the side? Well, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. Can you, Mr. Foy, and you were not there, could you give me another explanation of why? Because I believe her. This woman is not here because she is faking damage to her wood floors that resulted within that day. If he left at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the next day she called you at 8:30. So during that time period was sufficient water that came through her house to cause damage to her floors. Give me another explanation.
I contend that it was a leak that was there. She didn't notice it because, as she said, she didn't use that bathroom. She wasn't in that room. And
he was in that room.
I know, but what I'm saying is the water damage was there before he was there.
So your explanation is that you sent a technician there. Now it's not looking so good for you, Mr. Foy. Your explanation is your technician didn't notice sufficient leaking from that valve to say to her, you best turn the water off in the house and not use the water until I get back to fix it.
He wasn't looking in the bedroom, ma'am. He was in the shower. He saw the leak in the shower. And
Can I see pictures of the floor, please?
Can I say something?
Sure.
When I left, it was not leaking. It was leaking the same way it was leaking when I first got there.
So
out the front.
Well, just a second. That's a lot.
It was coming out.
According to you.
Well, I mean, according to me is a little stream is a lot of water.
Listen, Mr. Shelton. Listen, Mr. Shelton. She said a trickle. You said no. It was a steady stream.
Stream.
That's steady stream. Steady stream. Yeah. That's what you said, right? Can I see pictures of the floors, please? Between 4 o'clock and 8:30 in the morning. Can I see the bill to fix it, please?
I also have the person that fixed it. He wrote what he did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, kind of itemizes how.
Would you show this, please, to the defendant?
Yes. Thank you.
So, Mr. Foy, I assume you have insurance. You should have used it because I think you're responsible for the damage to her floors. And I think that was done because your technician did not do an adequate job of protecting it between the time he found a leak and between the next day. Nothing else makes sense to me. 35-89, judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't really agree with it because it was already leaking before I got there and she admitted to it.
I'm just thankful this is over.
That is a wood floor. Water could have been underneath the wood floor and not showed itself.
You would think once they pull the floor up, there would be mold.
I have nightmares about leaks.
Got justice today, thank goodness.
So, you tell me that there are houses that you know where there is a master switch.
Yes.
That you have to turn off for the shower.
I know it can be expensive to have all the valves in your house be the individual shut-off valves. I do think it's safer, but honestly, not everyone has the luxury of being able to afford them.
Even if that's the case, you should give the homeowner who called you, say, listen, there is a leak here. I can shut off all the water until I return tomorrow, so you won't have any water in the house overnight. He didn't give her that option. And I honestly believe that what he did, according to the second plumber's report, was accurate. He didn't put that valve back on the same way as it was. So between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and the next day, which is 15 hours, that water was gushing from the inside where it had not before. But I think he actually didn't put the valve on correctly.
That's also possible.
The broken one.
Yes.
And just put it back on and said, "I'll."
Either way, they were negligent. You have to pay for that.
Levi Shaw is suing his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, for the repair costs of an 18-wheeler truck.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
How are you?
Case number 2032, Shaw versus Celestine.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Shaw, these are your parents, is that right?
Yes, they are.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Just the very broad framework of this case. You're suing your parents for money that you put into a truck that belongs to them.
Correct.
And they are counterclaiming for money that they say you owe them for a balance of a dog they purchased for you. The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents.
Yes, the agreement was...
The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents. And
Correct.
what I gather is that you would come into some money. Is not an answer.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And when did you come into that money?
I never came into any money from them after I fixed
Not
the
from
truck.
them. I didn't say from them that you came into some money. Is not an answer.
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. I came into some
So I
money
want
in
you
October.
to... In October, you were not employed.
I was employed.
By whom?
Trucking.
Is that their company?
No, I was working with them and their brother.
So you were working with the family?
Yes.
Okay. That was in October.
Yes,
October
ma'am.
of 2021. It's not an answer.
I mean, yes,
is
ma'am.
an
I'm
answer.
sorry.
And how much did you come into?
About $10,000 for the month of September and October.
And then your father said to you, I assume, you should take some of that money and buy a 16-wheeler truck so that you...
No, ma'am.
Well, how did that happen, sir, that you got possession of your parents' truck?
So
Did you try to buy a truck on your own?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay,
And
in
that
what
deal
month?
failed.
Just a second. In what month did you try to buy a truck for yourself?
January.
January of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And tried to buy a truck so that you could have your own truck for long hauling and business.
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to a dealer and you found the truck that you liked, but you didn't qualify for financing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how much is a new truck?
That truck, it wasn't new. It was a 2015, and they priced it at $60,000.
60.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told your parents about that?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
there was a discussion that they had an older truck that wasn't running.
It needed minor work.
It needed...
That was told to me.
Okay, so they said to you it needs minor work. Was it running?
It was running, but the diamond seal was cracked, so eventually the truck was just going to break down completely.
Okay, so you took that truck with the understanding that you were going to repair the truck, and then what?
To make money. But
So you would repair the truck and then use it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would keep most of the profits from using that truck? I mean, I'm trying to understand what the agreement was.
My dad, Nathan, told me that the truck was only going to be worth $4,000 to fix, which was a diamond seal. It needs some bushings. It needs something for the exhaust pipe. And I was like, okay. But when the dude kept calling me for the truck, and he was like, okay, this needs to be done.
But you took the truck into a mechanic?
Yes, ma'am.
And did they give give you an estimate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before or after they did the work?
They gave me one before, but I don't have that estimate, but I have the one for after.
You mean after they completed the work, they sent you a bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's not an estimate. An estimate, sir, is when you go in and say, here is a truck. I want you to give me an estimate of what it is to have it fixed. And they give you an estimate, and then you determine whether or not you want them to do any or all of that work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would never bring a truck into any mechanic or to any dealership mechanic and say, fix it.
When they was calling me, telling me additional problems that was wrong, I would call them, which I have my phone records that show that I was also calling them once the dealership called me to fix the truck.
Well,
because some
just a
stuff
second.
on the truck wasn't able, like it needed a new gear, it needed new transmission was messed up on the truck.
Just
which
a second. All I want is what you're telling me, that your father told you to go ahead and fix those things each time you got a call?
Yes.
Okay, so you would call him in, and your father would not say to you, well, how much is that to fix?
Well, yeah, he was, but I had already had a settled amount that I told him that I was willing to spend, which was $10,000.
Well, did you spend $10,000?
The truck was actually over $10,000.
I understand to fix it, but you actually spent
$10,000.
You actually spent the $10,000.
$10,900 to be exact.
To fix the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think the truck was $13,000 to fix.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid the additional $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the truck is running.
Yes, ma'am, it's running. It was running before, Your Honor.
But it's running now better because
ma'am.
there are.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
we're not using it.
Just a second. I can only hear from one of you. He said the truck is in use. You said no.
It's not used. Or is the truck?
No, Your Honor, I misunderstood what you said. I thought you was talking about the repair. You saying is the truck operable now? Yes, it's operable, but it's not on the road.
It's not on the road? Who
Yes,
cares
ma'am.
if it's not on the road?
Oh, yes.
The idea
Yes, ma'am.
was he was supposed to fix the truck and supposed to be able to use the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he able to use the truck?
Yes, he's able to use the truck.
Okay, great. When was the last time he tried to use the truck?
He never tried to use the truck after it was fixed. He said that he no longer wanted to be a part of the deal to give him his money back.
Okay.
I have something. Now, when the truck originally got fixed in February, my dad came into town multiple times. It was one more piece that needed to be fixed, which was the ABS module, which if you get pulled over, they're going to stop you and shut you down completely.
I don't know.
And I told him, hey, we need to get that fixed. He came into town 3 times, and I asked him, hey, are you going to take the truck to the shop? Hey, are you going to take the truck to the shop? He said no. And he's like, well, it don't have any insurance. And it was just a whole bunch of excuses why he couldn't take the truck to the shop.
Whether he can or he can't, he says, and your mother says you're able to use the truck.
But I don't have a CDL, so I'm not able to drive it.
Well, you didn't have that when you took it in anyway, to be fixed.
But I didn't take the truck over there. He drove the truck to the mechanic shop.
Whatever. I don't care who drove it there, but your agreement with him was you tried to buy a new truck. It was much too expensive. Your agreement with your parents was that you would take an older truck of theirs that needed a lot of work, and you took it into a mechanic, and the mechanic was going to fix the truck, make it operable, so that you would have an opportunity to use it and make money.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm asking you, now the truck is fixed to the tune of $13,000. When was the last time that you asked to use the truck that your parents said you can't?
Well, I asked him, can I have his dad take the truck to get the additional piece put on, and he told me no, just to wait till he come into town.
Okay. After the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time.
I'd like to hear what the specific times
The specific time was...
Let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is.
Levi Shaw claims his parents, Davery and Nathan Celesti, owe for the repairs of an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents are countersuing for the balance of an English bulldog.
Was the additional piece put on the truck that he's talking about?
No, ma'am, it didn't actually need that addition. It was an ABS modulator, which on that particular model was a 1995 FLD Classic. On that particular model, you don't need that to reset the ABS light. All you need is a sensor that goes in the hub of the wheel.
What I'm asking you is, your son said that you needed this one part. This is your business.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is that one part?
This is a part that I never researched, so I can't tell you that, but according to him...
Perhaps I didn't ask you anything. Perhaps you can tell me.
The part was $900.
That was returned back.
It was never returned because they wouldn't let me return it because it's dealing with wires. So when I asked them, can I return it, they said no. And I had a text where I texted her and I said, hey, they will not let me return this piece.
Return what piece?
The ABS module. They
So-
would not let me return it because it's electrical and they do not accept returns on electric pieces.
So is what you're telling me that you bought this piece for $900?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that it wasn't necessary. You didn't buy it from him.
No, but I don't know if it was necessary, but what the mechanic told me and what
You
the
can't tell me
mechanic-
what the mechanic told you.
Well, I'm just saying the mechanic told
No,
me
you
that it
can't
needed.
tell me what the mechanic told you. Well, all I'm telling you, Mr. Shaw, is you had an agreement with your parents to fix a truck and then to be able to use it. And I want to know whether they have ever denied you the right, because that was the contract that you made. You never made a contract with them that you would take a truck to the mechanic and they would pay for the repairs. You never made that contract with them. You want me to say that that was your contract with them. They say the truck is operable now and that you can use it. When do you want to use it?
Well, if they willing to let me use it, then I want to use it as soon as possible.
Okay, and you can drive the truck.
No, I was going to hire a driver.
Okay, and the truck now is not on the road, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, ma'am,
Truck
that's right.
now,
That's right. That's right.
The
yeah,
truck is
that's
not
right.
on the road.
No, ma'am, it's
is
not.
what you said,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
operable.
Yes, it's not operable.
Okay, and after the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, and then be able to work at it so that he's getting some benefit from what he put into the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an agreement?
I wanted to ask.
I'm not
again.
looking at you.
Okay.
Did you have a discussion with him about how much of the time he would be able to utilize the truck, or was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear what the specific times
The specific time was...
let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is. I gave him specifically, according to him, about 3 months of when he probably needed it, to get himself together.
No, just a second. You mean he was going to spend $10,000 on fixing the truck and you were going to let him use it for 3 months?
Well,
Put
as
your
long
hand
as
down.
he-
I'm
well,
not talking to you.
Well, as long as he needed it. I'm going to put it that way. As long as he needed the truck.
So now that's better.
Yes, ma'am.
So that he can use the truck whenever he needs it and he's going to get a driver. I just want to know, because we're going to have to memorialize all this
Yes,
in an order. What do you want?
We had a driver. My brother was the driver.
I don't care whether your brother was the driver or not. That was not the agreement that your husband said he made with his son.
Yes, ma'am.
He says he made an agreement with him that if he paid to have it fixed, he could use the truck whenever he wanted to. That's what your father says.
No, that is not that
Okay,
is not
so
true.
when did you ask to use the truck?
So in January, when I was getting the truck fixed, they told me $4,000. But as the mechanic kept calling me, adding on stuff, I said, hey, I'm not about to pay all this money, and y'all telling me I can just use it. If I'm about to put all my money into it, I want the truck. And my mom was like, okay, you can do that, because in January, they didn't make any money.
Just a
because-
second. So what you're telling me is what you said to your mother, I'm not going to put in all this money unless the truck belongs to me.
Correct.
Well, that's not unreasonable, Mr. Shaw. I can actually see that. You're spending $10,000 of your money and you want to be able to use the truck. And you want it to be able to not have it on a whim of somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is this truck?
This truck is exactly 22 years old.
How long have you owned it?
I've owned it since I was 23 years old.
Okay, so you've owned it since it was new.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make a living from it?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Good. Do you have other trucks now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How many others?
Just one other. I'm not no big scale company. I just got one other truck. Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the title to the truck, please?
To the truck we're talking about?
Yes.
I don't have that title with me.
Why not?
I was under the impression that I didn't need to bring it.
Okay. And according to you, the truck's not on the road now?
No, ma'am, it's not on the road.
Do you remember having a conversation with your son about, I'm not going to spend all this money unless the truck is mine?
Yes, ma'am, I do remember that conversation.
Do you remember where it took place?
He was driving and I was at home.
So it was over the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Remember what month that was?
January.
January of 2022.
Correct.
Tell me what you said to him and what he said to you.
I told him, I totally understand what you're saying. I said, let me talk to your daddy and we'll see what we could do. But
Great. As a parent, that sounds perfectly reasonable. And did you speak to your husband?
Yes, I did.
Did the two of you own the truck?
He owns the truck. It's in his name and Nathan's name.
So you said, okay, that sounds okay. Let me talk to your daddy. You have to talk to the owner of the truck because
Correct.
now you're seeking to change the agreement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And after you spoke to your mother, did you have a conversation with your father about the ownership of the truck?
Yes, we did.
And tell me when that was and what was discussed.
It was in January as well, and when I told him that, he said he totally agreed with me that if I put in majority of the money, that I can have the truck.
Okay. I want to tell you certain things sort of ring true to me. If I were a young person and spending all my money for a business, because this is the business that he was going to be in, he was going to hire a driver and he was going to take a certain amount of the profits. I could understand him saying to his parents, who now have a truck that they're not using because it's not on the road, I'm going to spend all my savings, it looks like, because the initial estimate was $4,000, but it kept going up and up and up and up and up. So if I'm going to spend all this, put your hand down. If I'm going to spend all this money, I'd like to own the truck. And in response to that, his mother said, and acknowledges that she said, it sounds right to me, I'm going to speak to your father. And according to you, you spoke to your father, and your father said, sounds okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went ahead and spent the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Put your hand down. This
Your
is
Honor,
not
I don't understand,
this is not
Your Honor.
dollars
I done made over $1 million
fix your
with the
truck.
truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man.
Okay.
How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
Levi Shaw says his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, owe for the costs of repairs to an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents say he never used the truck, and it is still not fixed.
I'd like to see the bills for the truck.
Oh, I have it on my phone.
Well, what is that?
These was the bank statements because at first they was countersuing for insurance as well. So I was showing bank statements where I had sent them money. So
No, I
that's
don't-
what these was
Yeah.
for. But I have it on my phone, but I don't have it in the statements.
Well, I need it.
Here you go.
Is that the one final invoice?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it.
And it also I have at the bottom where it says it needs the ABS
hold it up.
module.
Your Honor, can I see that as well?
Yes. Well, so the entire amount is $13,000.
$13,000 and some change.
And your father paid $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not the correct invoice.
What?
I
got
have
the
the
original.
original invoice.
Oh, fine, I'll take a look
This
at
the
yours.
invoice that was sent to me via, so by their email, which I can pull up their email as well.
And it shows that it's paid on the back.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the same thing as he showed me.
But it has our name on it.
Who cares?
The ones that he showed you, it changed since then.
Well, but let me ask you a question.
No.
Unless I'm missing something,
No.
you're not questioning the fact that he paid $10,000 to fix the truck out of the $13,000 that the truck was. Are you questioning that?
No, I'm not
Okay,
questioning that.
then I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Let's go over this one more time. When your son said to you, if I'm going to spend all this money, I want to own the truck, and your wife had the same conversation with you, right? She said, I got a call from Levi. Levi said if he's going to spend all this money, he really wants the truck, and she actually thought it was okay. And what did you say, sir?
I said that I'm not going to sell you the truck.
Why?
I will let you use the truck.
No, when did you say that?
Because I have other children.
Oh, no, but
And-
your other children didn't put any money into the truck.
No, I know.
No,
what
just a
you're saying.
second. Your other children didn't put
I
any
know what
money
you're
into
saying,
the truck.
but there's like-
Hand down.
He didn't
Okay.
ask me to buy the truck.
Okay.
Your Honor. He asked, could he use it?
Just a second.
He was gonna sell it to my uncle because when the repairs got done, they actually didn't have enough money because I had $8,000 saved up. They took $4,000 of my $8,000.
That you got
to pay
paid
the,
back.
Yes, but they didn't have the money, so
That's
when
not true.
you
That's
just
Mr.
said you
Shaw,
bought
Mr.
$4,000
Shaw,
from me.
I don't expect you to talk to each other. I don't expect you to talk
Yes,
to him.
ma'am, I understand.
It's very easy. I believe that you changed the contract with your son from a contract where he would pay for the repairs, which was supposed to be $4,000, and then you have the use of the truck, to the fact that he was going to spend $10,000, which was all of his money. Put your hand down. I'm not... This 22-year-old truck that you've had since it was new was going to be his. And I am going to craft an order to the Department of Motor Vehicles to reissue a title in the truck to him. Do you understand? He's going to take that order. He's going to get a new registration for the car and a new ownership, unless you want. Put your hand down. This is
Your
not
Honor, I don't
a.
understand
This is
that,
not.
Your Honor.
It's not.
I don't understand that.
Well,
I got other
just a
children.
second.
I got 5 other
do
kids.
you want me?
Man.
Do you want me to
And
say
he's
it's
spoiled,
slower?
Your Honor.
And I say, what about the $3,500 that we put into it?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
But it wasn't $4,500. It was $3,500.
35. I'm sorry if you didn't hear me well.
Man.
You are absolutely entitled to that. I believe you are entitled to that. He put in 10. That's his truck.
I made, Your Honor, I worked all my life with that truck.
I don't care.
I worked all my.
I don't care. He's not going to spend his $10,000
I done made over $1 million
fix your
with
truck.
the truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man. How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
I need a break.
That's the judgment. I'm not entertaining your counterclaim. That's the judgment of the court. You get title to the truck. You can retrieve it as soon as you change the registration of the truck. However, in order to do that, you have to give your parents the $3,500 that they put into the truck. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Good.
what about
We're
this
done.
dog?
We're done.
This court is adjourned.
We're done.
We paying for this dog.
We're done.
It's over.
Okay.
We paying for this dog, and he's not giving us nothing.
Let me explain something to you. The reason, let me explain something to you. The reason that I'm not hearing your counterclaim is because the two of you were disrespectful and didn't listen to me. Oh, yes, you did. That's it. We're done.
All right. My actions of my response to what she was saying wasn't nothing being disrespectful towards her.
I'm very glad she ruled in my favor.
It was the initial, the thought of giving up my hard-earned possessions.
It was because I did try to work it out before we came to court, and they was like, no, we're not going to pay you nothing.
I never would have thought in a million years to sue my parents, even though my parents whooped my butt. But that was just something you had to go through back then.
It saddens me. I'm in disbelief that my parents did that to me. I didn't think that they would do that.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know his plans. I can't talk that.
If you do business with family, make sure you get contracts.
You know, I sympathize with the plaintiff's position on this because modifications of contracts are supposed to be allowed when there's a change in circumstance. So it's not like he was attempting to change the contract every Friday or for no reason. He thought that it was going to be $4,000. It turned out to be $10,000 to fix the truck. And as such, he wanted a bargain for exchange. That's a lot more money than he initially intended. So that conversation makes sense to me, that conversation between his parents, that I know we had agreed to this, but now with this new information, this is what I'm comfortable with. Is that okay?
I think so. I think that is a common sense interpretation of what happened.
For a truck that cost $60,000 20 years ago, to put in $10,000 to it is not nothing. That's a big investment.
It probably isn't worth more than that. And the condition that it was in before he had it repaired, their position was unreasonable because now they have a fixed truck
that their child paid for. And with the animus between them, it doesn't seem to me as if he's going to get any benefit from the bargain. So the modification of their original oral contract, which I think happens occasionally when circumstances change, as long as both parties agree. And I actually think that both the mother and the father said okay, and then something happened that I don't know about. Don't want to know about.
And I don't want to know about it. But I think it's fair that he had possession of the truck since he paid the majority of it.
Hi, xin chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu bức tranh về một chú hà mã. Đầu tiên mình sẽ lấy màu xám để tô cho phần thân và phần đầu. vậy là chúng ta đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh Một chú Hà Mã. Và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.